They say the moment you become human again is where the story ends. The wolf dies, the curse shatters, you wake up naked in the forest with dirt under your fingernails and humanity flooding back into your veins like ice water. The end. Happily ever after. But what no one tells you is what happens in the 20 heartbeats after that transformation. When you realize you can't remember how to breathe without counting. When silence stops being peaceful and starts being a void that swallows you whole. When you look at your perfectly human hands and feel the absence of claws like phantom limbs screaming in the space where they used to be. Because sometimes, the happy ending is where you discover that sanity isn't something you carry inside yourself like a jewel in a box. Sometimes it's something that was carried for you, by teeth and fur and instincts you didn't know were holding you together. Sometimes, breaking the curse means breaking yourself. And sometimes God. Sometimes you spend the rest of your human life trying to figure out how to grieve for the monster you killed to set yourself free. Chapter 1. The Victory That Wasn't. The psychiatric hospital smells like industrial bleach, and the particular flavor of hopelessness that comes from fluorescent lights that never turn off. Dr. Anita Voss. Human now, she has to keep reminding herself. Human sits in the observation room with her hands folded on the metal table, watching her own reflection fracture across the two-way mirror. She's been here for 3 days. They found her in Riverside Park at dawn, naked and screaming, trying to bite through the leather collar that was no longer around her neck. The jogger who called 911 told the operator she looked rabid, like she didn't know she was a person. The EMTs sedated her. The police ran her fingerprints and found a missing persons report from 7 years ago. Dr. Anita Voss, 34, cognitive behavioral therapist, last seen leaving her practice on Amsterdam Avenue, presumed dead after 6 months. But she wasn't dead. She was a wolf. And now she's human again. And the doctors keep asking her if she knows where she is, what year it is, whether she wants to hurt herself. They don't ask the question that actually matters. Do you know who you are without the thing that was eating you alive from the inside out? Because Anita doesn't. She knows her name. She knows she's supposed to be grateful 7 years as a wolf. 7 years of hunting and running and living in her hindbrain. And now she's back. She's saved. The curse is broken. The witch is dead. She killed her herself. Tore out the woman's throat in a cabin in the Catskills while the full moon poured through the windows like milk. She remembers the taste of blood. She remembers the way the witch's last breath rattled, and then the weight lifting, the magic snapping, her body convulsing as bones restructured and fur retracted and humanity slammed back into her like a car crash. She remembers becoming herself again. What she can't remember is how to be herself. Dr. Voss? The psychiatrist. Dr. Reyes. Young, earnest, clipboard clutched like a shield leans forward. Can you tell me what you're thinking right now? Anita opens her mouth, closes it, tries again. I'm thinking, she says slowly, and her voice still sounds wrong. Too high, too human, missing the growl underneath that used to make every word feel certain, that I can hear the air conditioning vent clicking 63 times per minute, and the person in the room next door is crying, and there's a orderly in the hallway wearing shoes that squeak on the linoleum every 4th step, and someone 3 floors down is cooking oatmeal. And I can't. She stops, breathes, counts to 4. The wolf used to filter it all out. The wolf's brain was simple: food, danger, pack, run. The wolf didn't lie awake, parsing every sonic detail of her environment until she wanted to claw her own ears off. The wolf didn't remember that before the curse, before the 7 years of fur and fang. She was a woman who couldn't leave her apartment without counting the locks 12 times. A woman who showered 3 times a day and still felt contaminated. A woman whose own mind was such a labyrinth of obsession and compulsion that she couldn't trust herself to hold a kitchen knife without intrusive thoughts of violence blooming like black flowers. The wolf had been simple. The wolf had been sane. You're experiencing sensory overload, Dr. Reyes says gently. That's normal after trauma. Your brain is trying to process. My brain was fine. Anita interrupts, and her voice cracks. For 7 years, my brain was fine. I didn't count. I didn't check. I didn't spiral. I just Was. She looks down at her hands, pale, thin, with fingernails she bit down to the quick last night because she kept trying to sharpen them on the bed frame. There are bandages on 3 of her fingers where she broke skin. The wolf didn't have OCD, she whispers. The wolf didn't have anxiety. The wolf didn't lie awake at 3 a.m. convinced she'd left the stove on and was going to burn down a building she hadn't lived in for 7 years. Dr. Reyes writes something on her clipboard. The curse, fixed me. The words hang in the air like heresy. Dr. Reyes sets down her pen. Anita, the curse turned you into an animal. You lost 7 years of your life. You lost your career, your home, your I lost my mind before the curse, Anita says. She's shaking now, hands trembling on the table. I lost it years before. Obsessive-compulsive disorder. Doctor diagnosed. Medication resistant. Do you know what it's like to be trapped inside your own head? To have thoughts you don't want? Thoughts that feel like someone else is screaming inside your skull, and you can't make them stop? To perform rituals you know are irrational, but you can't stop because if you do, something terrible will happen. You'll know it'll happen even though you know it won't. But the knowing doesn't help because the fear is louder than logic. She's breathing too fast. She counts. 1, 2, 3, 4. The wolf, she continues, quieter now, didn't have thoughts. The wolf had instincts. Clean. Clear. No second guessing. No spiraling. No mental contamination. For 7 years, I was free. And now? Dr. Reyes asks. Anita closes her eyes. Now, she's human again. Which means she's been awake for 47 hours because she has to check the door lock every time she hears footsteps, which is every 3 to 7 minutes. It means she's counted the ceiling tiles in her room 462 times. It means she washed her hands until they bled this morning because someone touched her shoulder and she couldn't stop thinking about bacteria and disease and her skin crawling with invisible contamination. It means the obsessions are back. All of them. Worse than before. And the wolf. The beautiful simple wolf who never once worried about whether she'd locked a door or washed her hands or said the wrong thing in a conversation 3 years ago, that wolf is gone. She killed her. Now, Anita says, opening her eyes. I'm cured. They discharge her after 72 hours, because she's not a danger to herself or others, because she can answer their questions coherently, because there's no legal justification to keep a woman who was cursed and is now uncursed. They give her a prescription for SSRIs and a referral to a therapist, ironic, since she used to be one, and a pamphlet about reintegration services. She walks out into October sunlight that feels like knives. The world is too loud, too bright, too much. A taxi honks, and she flinches, muscle memory trying to flatten her ears against her skull, except she doesn't have ears that move anymore. A woman brushes past her on the sidewalk, and Anita's skin crawls, contaminated. She needs to wash. She needs to count to 4. She needs to. Dr. Voss? She turns. The woman standing behind her is maybe 60, gray hair pulled into a bun, wearing a wool coat, despite the mild weather. Her face is unfamiliar, but her eyes are the particular shade of amber that Anita knows from reflections in puddles and streams, from 7 years of seeing through different pupils. Wolf eyes. In a human face. You killed Morgana, the woman says. It's not an accusation, just a fact. Anita's hand goes to her throat, where a collar used to be. The witch. Yes. Good, the woman says. She cursed 43 people over 30 years. Most of them died without ever breaking it. She pauses. My name is Dr. Iris Kane. I was cursed 22 years ago. I broke it 11 years ago. And I've been waiting for someone like you. Someone like me? Someone who survived becoming human again, Iris says, and realized that survival isn't the same as living. She hands Anita a business card. No name, no title, just an address in Brooklyn, and a single word. Aftermath. There are 12 of us, Iris continues. 12 who broke curses and discovered what you're discovering now. That the curse wasn't the worst part. The after is. Anita stares at the card. Her hands are shaking. She needs to count the corners. 4 corners. Square. Safe. 1, 2, 3, 4. What if, she whispers, what if I don't want to be human? Iris smiles, sad and knowing. Then you're exactly who we're waiting for, she says. Because the real curse, Dr. Voss, it's not fur and fangs, it's what comes after you're cured. She turns to walk away, then stops. First meeting is tonight, 7 p.m. Don't count the subway stops on the way there, you'll lose track anyway, and you'll spiral. Trust me, I know. And then, she's gone. Disappearing into the crowd, and Anita is standing alone on a Manhattan sidewalk with a business card in her hand, and the phantom weight of a collar around her neck, and the terrible, howling absence of the wolf inside her chest. She checks her pocket for her phone. It's there. She checks again. Still there. Again. 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 The wolf would have checked once and moved on. But the wolf is dead. And Anita is learning that sometimes, the monster is the only thing standing between you and the real horror. The unfiltered, unmedicated, uncontrollable chaos of your own mind. She looks at the card. Aftermath. 1, 2, 3, 4. She counts the letters. 9 letters. Not divisible by 4. Wrong. She needs to know. No. Stop. Anita closes her eyes, and for just a moment, she swears she can feel fur prickling beneath her skin. A growl rising in her throat. The wolf whispering, "You didn't break the curse. You broke us." She opens her eyes. The world is still too loud. But tonight, at 7 p.m., she'll go to Brooklyn. Because if there's one thing worse than being cursed, it's being cured, and discovering that the curse was the only thing keeping you from falling apart. Like this video, if you understand what Anita's facing, because mental health stories like this need readers who won't look away when it gets uncomfortable. Drop a comment if you've ever felt trapped inside your own mind. You're not alone in this. Chapter 2. The Archaeology of Choice. The subway to Brooklyn smells like rust and urine, and the particular desperation of people trying to get somewhere that matters. Anita sits with her back against the plastic seat, hands folded in her lap, counting. 1, 2, 3, 4. The stops. She's counting the stops even though Iris told her not to. 7 stops from Columbus Circle to the address in Park Slope. Except, she's lost count twice because a man sat down next to her, and she had to move because his jacket touched her arm. Contamination spreading across her skin like oil, and now she's standing by the doors, counting the people in the car instead. 23 people. Not divisible by 4. The wolf wouldn't care. The wolf would smell them. Fear. Fatigue. The morning's coffee still on their breath, and dismiss them as not food, not threat, not relevant. The wolf's brain was a simple algorithm. Survive, hunt, run. No counting, no checking, no obsessive mental loops that felt like drowning in your own thoughts. Anita checks her pocket for the business card. Still there. Checks again. Still there. The train lurches and she grabs the pole, and her hand touches where someone else's hand was, and the contamination spirals. What if they were sick? What if they had something? What if she gets sick and dies, and it's her fault for not being careful enough, for not washing, for not... She counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. The wolf didn't wash. The wolf rolled in dirt and blood and deer carcasses and never once worried about germs. Because the wolf's immune system was magic. Or maybe just because the wolf's brain didn't have the particular broken wiring that turns every surface into a potential death sentence. The intercom crackles. 7th Avenue, Park Slope. Anita exits onto the platform, checks her pocket card, still there, and climbs the stairs to street level. The address leads her to a brownstone with a red door and flower boxes in the windows that haven't been tended in weeks. Dead petals scatter across the stoop like confetti at a funeral. She raises her hand to knock, lowers it, raises it again. This is stupid. What is this? A support group for former curse victims? A cult? A trap? What if Iris is working for someone who wants to curse her again? What if? The door opens before she knocks. You've been standing there for 4 minutes, Iris says. She's changed into jeans and a sweater, barefoot, and there's something about her stillness that reminds Anita of the moment before a wolf pounces. Coiled. Ready. Checking or spiraling. Both, Anita admits. Good, you're honest. Come in. The interior is ordinary. Hardwood floors, worn furniture, bookshelves crammed with volumes on mythology and psychology and veterinary medicine. But there are 12 chairs arranged in a circle in what used to be a living room, and 11 of them are already occupied. 11 pairs of eyes turn toward Anita, and every single one of them has that amber tint. Wolf eyes. In human faces. Everyone, Iris says, this is Dr. Anita Voss, cursed 7 years ago, broke it 3 days ago, currently in the acute phase of remembering why she needed the curse in the first place. A few people nod. One woman mid-20s, tattoo sleeves, nose ring raises her hand in greeting. Anita, Iris continues, gesturing to the empty chair. Welcome to Aftermath. We're the people nobody writes stories about. The happily ever after survivors. She smiles, and it's bitter as burnt coffee. Turns out, ever after is a long fucking time when you're stuck being human again. Anita sits. The chair is wooden, uncomfortable. She folds her hands in her lap. 1, 2, 3, 4 fingers on the left. 1, 2, 3, 4 on the right. 8 total. Divisible by 4. Safe. Let's go around, Iris says, settling into her own chair. For Anita's benefit. Name, curse, duration, time since breaking it. I'll start. Iris Kane, wolf curse. 11 years cursed. 11 years human again. I was a research psychologist before. Specialized in anxiety disorders. She laughs, short and sharp. Ironic, right? The man to Iris's left clears his throat. He's maybe 40, with mechanic's grease still under his fingernails and a scar across his throat. David Reeves, bear curse. 14 years cursed, 3 years human. I was a long-haul trucker. Now I can't drive more than 20 miles without a panic attack about losing control and killing someone. Next, the woman with tattoos. Sam Ortiz. Raven curse. 6 years cursed. 2 years human. I was a graphic designer. Now I can't look at a blank screen without intrusive thoughts about death. She shrugs. The Raven saw everything from above. Every car crash, every murder, every body. Turns out you can't unsee that shit just because you have hands again. Around the circle. A librarian who was a fox for 9 years and now has severe contamination OCD. A teacher who was a deer for 4 years and now can't be in rooms with more than 3 people without hyperventilating. A chef who was a bore for 12 years and now can't trust herself around knives. Curse after curse after curse. And every single one of them, human again. And every single one of them, broken. The pattern, Iris says when the introductions finish, is obvious. We were cursed because we were vulnerable. The witches, the fae, whatever they don't curse happy, well-adjusted people, they curse the desperate, the suffering, the people who are barely holding on. She stands, moving to a whiteboard covered in notes and diagrams. Anita's therapist brain recognizes the structure. Cognitive behavioral therapy frameworks, exposure hierarchies, medication charts. The curse, Iris continues, tapping the board, gave us a brain that couldn't hold human pathology. Animal brains don't have anxiety disorders. They have fear responses immediate, necessary, life-saving, but they don't have OCD. They don't have PTSD. They don't lie awake running simulations of social interactions from 5 years ago. The curse simplified us, Sam adds. Made us clean. Made us sane, David mutters. Iris nods. And then, we broke it. Because that's what you're supposed to do. That's the narrative. Curse to beast, kill the witch, break the spell, become human, live happily ever after. Except the beast was holding us together. Anita whispers. Silence. Then Iris. Yes. Anita's hands are shaking. She clasps them together, squeezes until the bones creak. So what do? We can't get cursed again. We can't, I killed Morgana, the witch who cursed me. She's dead. There's no going back. There's always going back, a voice says from the corner. Anita turns. There's a 13th person in the room, someone she didn't notice before, sitting in shadow, away from the circle. A woman, maybe 50, with silver-streaked black hair and eyes that aren't amber. They're gold. Pure, metallic gold. Who? Anita starts. That's Lorelai, Iris says quietly. She's different. Lorelai stands, moves into the light. She's tall, dressed in dark wool, and there's something wrong with the way she moves, too fluid, too precise, like a puppet with invisible strings. I didn't break my curse, Lorelai says. Her voice is silk over gravel. I learned to control it. Anita's heart pounds. That's not possible. The curse is all or nothing. You're either human or you're a wolf? A raven? A bear? Lorelai smiles, and for just a second, her teeth look too sharp. What if I told you the curse isn't a curse at all? What if it's a gift that was forced on you before you were ready to receive it? That's insane, Anita says. But even as she speaks, she feels it, the phantom weight of the collar, the ghost of fur, the memory of running through forests with a brain that was blessedly, perfectly empty of human neurosis. Is it? Lorelai moves closer. You said it yourself, Dr. Voss. The wolf fixed you. For 7 years, you were free, and now you're trapped again, not in a curse, but in your own mind, which is worse. We're human, Anita says, but it sounds like a question. You're suffering. Lorelai corrects. There's a difference. She looks around the circle. All of you. You broke your curses because you thought that was freedom. But what you learned is that the cage you were born with, the anxiety, the OCD, the PTSD, that cage came back the moment the magic left. So now you have a choice. Iris stands. Lorelai, we talked about this. We're not what? Not going to tell them the truth? Lorelai's gold eyes flash. That there's another witch. A different one. Someone who doesn't curse people. She gives them the choice. Anita's mouth goes dry. Choice? To go back, Lorelai says, not as a victim, as someone who understands what they're choosing. The witch, her name is Siobhan. She lives in the Adirondacks. She's been there for 200 years. And she offers a trade. Your humanity for your sanity. Permanent. No breaking the curse. No coming back. Just peace. The room erupts. David, that's suicide. Sam, that's giving up. The fox woman. That's exactly what Morgana wanted. Morgana forced you, Lorelai interrupts, voice cutting through the chaos. Siobhan asks, there's a difference between being transformed against your will and choosing transformation, because your will is the only thing you have left. Anita can't breathe, can't think. The walls are closing in, and she needs to count. She needs to check her pockets. She needs. Get out, Iris says to Lorelai. Her voice is cold. This is a recovery group, not a recruitment center. Lorelai looks at Anita. 3 months, she says. That's the average time it takes for someone to realize that being cured is worse than being cursed. When you hit that point, Dr. Voss, you'll know where to find me. She walks to the door, pauses. I was a wolf for 20 years. I broke the curse. I lasted 4 months as a human before I begged Siobhan to take me back. That was 6 years ago. She smiles. And this time, her teeth are definitely too sharp. I'm human when I choose to be. And I'm a wolf when I need to be. And I haven't had a single panic attack, a single intrusive thought, a single sleepless night since I made that choice. She leaves. The door closes. And Anita sits in a circle of broken people who chose humanity and can't figure out how to live with the choice. Don't listen to her, Iris says, returning to her seat. Lorelai is. She's coping in her own way. But giving up your humanity permanently isn't recovery. It's surrender. Is it? Anita asks. Her voice sounds distant, even to herself. Or is clinging to humanity when it's destroying you just another form of obsession? No one answers, because no one knows. And that's when Anita realizes the truth that's been circling since she woke up human in Riverside Park. She didn't break the curse to be free. She broke the curse because that's what the story says you're supposed to do. But no one ever asked her what she actually wanted. Anita sits in her therapist's office. She has a therapist because therapists need therapists, especially when they're drowning, and she says the words she's been trying not to say for 6 months. I can't do this anymore. Dr. Patel looks up from her notes. Can't do what, Anita? This. Being. Existing. Living inside my own head. Anita's hands twist in her lap. She's already counted the ceiling tiles, 48, the books on the shelf, 63. The seconds between Dr. Patel's blinks, average, 4.2. The medication isn't working. The exposure therapy isn't working. I'm getting worse. Worse how? I spent 3 hours yesterday checking the locks on my apartment. 3 hours. I was late to work. I lied and said there was a subway delay. But it was me. It's always me. I'm the delay. I'm the problem. My brain is eating me alive. Dr. Patel sets down her pen. Have you had thoughts of hurting yourself? Every day, Anita admits. But I can't act on them because I'm too afraid I'd do it wrong. That I'd survive and be worse off. That I'd hurt someone else in the process. That, she laughs, and it sounds like breaking. I can't even kill myself correctly because my OCD won't let me. Anita, I just want it to stop. Anita whispers. The thoughts, the rituals, the constant, screaming, static in my head. I want 5 minutes of silence. 5 minutes where my brain isn't attacking me. Is that too much to ask? Dr. Patel starts to respond, but Anita is already standing, already leaving, already walking out into a New York evening where the air smells like rain and possibility. She doesn't know that in 3 hours, she'll meet a woman in Central Park who will offer her exactly what she asked for, silence. She doesn't know that the woman is a witch named Morgana who feeds on desperation. She doesn't know that she'll accept the curse willingly, gratefully, because anything is better than living inside a mind that treats every moment like a war zone. She doesn't know that anything has teeth, and she doesn't know that 7 years later, she'll have to answer the question that's haunting her now. If you had to choose between being a monster with peace or a human with pain, which would you choose? And what does it say about you if you choose the monster? Present timeline, aftermath group, 20 minutes later. The thing they don't tell you about breaking curses, Sam says, lighting a cigarette despite being indoors, despite Iris's disapproving look, is that curses are just truth with teeth. You don't get cursed randomly. You get cursed because you have a wound, and the curse is a bandage made of claws. Anita watches smoke curl toward the ceiling. So we're all walking wounds pretending to be people? We're people discovering that the wound was always worse than we thought, David corrects. And the bandage, the curse, it covered it up so well that we forgot how deep it went. Iris nods. Which is why aftermath exists. To help you heal the actual wound. Not with magic. With work, therapy, medication, community. The human way. The slow way. Anita mutters. The real way, Iris counters. But Anita is thinking about Lorelei's gold eyes. About the possibility of choosing the wolf instead of having it forced on you. About Siobhan in the Adirondacks who asks instead of takes. What if the wound can't be healed? Anita asks. What if it's just who I am? What if my brain is structurally incapable of not spiraling? Iris leans forward. Then you learn to live with it. You build coping mechanisms. You find medication that works. You create a life that accommodates your limitations. You survive. The wolf didn't have to survive, Anita says. The wolf lived, and there it is. The truth she's been circling since she woke up human. The wolf didn't survive. The wolf thrived. And Anita is starting to realize that maybe, just maybe, breaking the curse was the worst decision she ever made. We meet twice a week, Iris says, as the group begins to disperse. Tuesday and Thursday nights, same time. And Anita? It gets easier. Not better, maybe. But easier. Anita nods, but she doesn't believe it. Because as she walks back to the subway, checking her pockets every 15 seconds, card still there, phone still there, keys still there, even though she doesn't have an apartment anymore, she realizes something. The curse gave her 7 years. 7 years of silence. 7 years of peace. And now she has the rest of her human life stretching ahead like a prison sentence. And she's only 3 days in, and she's already counting down the seconds until she can't take it anymore. 3 months, Lorelei said. Anita wonders if she'll even last that long. Chapter 3. The moment before. The thing about desperation is that it has a smell. Anita will learn this later. When she's a wolf and can scent it on people from 100 yards away, the particular musk of someone at the end of their rope, someone whose survival instinct has calcified into something harder and more dangerous, the willingness to accept any exit from their own mind. But right now, walking through Central Park at 11 p.m., because she can't go home yet, can't face the locks she'll have to check, and the thoughts that will spiral, and the 3 hours of sleep she might get if she's lucky. Anita just knows she smells like rain and exhaustion. The park is mostly empty. A few joggers with headlamps. A homeless man sleeping on a bench. The distant wail of sirens painting the New York night with urgency that has nothing to do with her. She sits on a bench near Bethesda Fountain and counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. She's been doing this for 6 months, wandering the city at night, because moving feels better than being still. Because if she's walking, she can pretend she's going somewhere, instead of just running from the inside of her own skull. Her apartment feels like a trap. 23 steps from the door to the bedroom. 47 steps from the bedroom to the bathroom. 3 locks on the door. Deadbolt, chain, doorknob. She has to check them in order. Deadbolt first, then chain, then doorknob, then back to deadbolt, to make sure she didn't accidentally unlock it while checking the others. Last night it took 2 hours. This morning she called in sick to work for the 3rd time this month. She's going to lose her practice, her clients, everything she built. And the worst part, the part that makes her want to claw her own brain out, is that she knows it's irrational. She has a PhD in psychology. She understands the neurology of OCD, overactive amygdala, underactive prefrontal cortex, serotonin dysregulation. She knows that her compulsions are her brain's maladaptive attempt to manage anxiety that has no actual source. Knowing doesn't help. It never helps. "You're thinking very loudly," a voice says. Anita looks up. The woman standing in front of her is maybe 60, maybe 600. There's something ageless about her face, something that doesn't quite sync with the temporal world. She's wearing a long coat despite the warm October night, and her hair is black, threaded with silver, pulled back in a braid that hangs to her waist. "Sorry," Anita says automatically. "I'll move. I didn't say it bothered me." The woman sits down uninvited, leaving exactly 2 feet of space between them. I said, "You're thinking loudly." There's a difference. Most people think quietly. Background noise, elevator music. But you? She tilts her head. You think in screams. Anita's skin prickles. I don't. I should go. You've been walking for 3 hours. The woman continues, conversational, like they're discussing the weather. You left your therapist's office at 6. You walked from the Upper West Side to here. You stopped 4 times to wash your hands in public restrooms. You counted every streetlight between Columbus Avenue and the Park 216, if you're wondering whether you got it right. You did. Anita stands. How do you... Sit down, Anita. She sits. Not because she wants to. Because the woman's voice carries a weight that bypasses voluntary muscle control. That sinks into her hindbrain and pulls her down like gravity. My name is Morgana, the woman says. And I've been watching you for 6 months. Ever since you Googled how to make yourself stop thinking at 4 a.m. and ended up on some very interesting forums about very old solutions to very human problems. Anita's mouth goes dry. She did Google that. She'd been in a spiral about whether she'd said something offensive to a client 3 years ago, whether she'd ruined their treatment, whether she should track them down and apologize, and the obsession had metastasized until she was searching for anything meditation, lobotomy, anything that would make her brain stop. She'd found forums about magic, about witches, about people who claimed they'd been cured of their mental illnesses through supernatural means. She'd dismissed it as delusion, hadn't she? You didn't dismiss it, Morgana says, reading her face. You bookmarked 7 pages. You went back to them every night for a week. You read testimonials from people who said a curse had saved them, made them simple, made them silent. That's not real. Magic? Morgana laughs. No, I suppose it's not. Not in the way your therapists and your medications and your cognitive behavioral therapy are real. Those are real. And they're not working, are they? Anita's hands clench in her lap. I'm managing. You're drowning. Morgana's voice is gentle, which makes it worse. You're 34 years old and you spend more time checking locks than sleeping. You're a therapist who can't leave her apartment without performing rituals that take hours. You have intrusive thoughts about hurting people not because you want to, but because your brain produces them like a broken assembly line spitting out defective products. You're terrified of yourself, and you're exhausted. Tears blur Anita's vision. Why are you telling me this? Because I can help you. I don't need. You do. Morgana reaches into her coat pocket and pulls out something small and leather, a collar. Simple, brown, with a single silver buckle. I can give you 7 years of silence. 7 years, where your brain works the way it's supposed to. No obsessions, no compulsions, no thoughts that feel like attacks. Just peace. Anita stares at the collar. What's the catch? You won't be human. The words hang in the air between them like smoke. I don't understand, Anita whispers. A curse, Morgana explains. Ancient, elegant, simple. You wear the collar, you become a wolf. Your human mind, all that beautiful, terrible complexity gets compressed into something manageable. Animal, clean. You'll have instincts instead of obsessions, reactions instead of ruminations. You'll live in the moment because that's all wolves do. That's insane. Is it? Morgana leans forward. Or is it insane to keep suffering when there's an alternative? You said it yourself in therapy today. You want it to stop. The thoughts, the rituals, the constant war inside your own head. I'm offering you an armistice. Anita's heart pounds. For 7 years? 7 years. Then the curse breaks. You become human again. But by then, Morgana smiles. By then, maybe you'll have learned something about yourself, about what you actually need. And if I don't want to become human again? Morgana's smile widens. That's not how curses work, Anita. The curse breaks. No choice. That's what makes it a curse. Anita looks at the collar. It's just leather, just metal, just an object. But she can feel it calling to her like a siren song, like the promise of sleep after 72 hours awake, like the first breath after drowning. What happens if I say no? She asks. You go home. You check your locks. You lie awake. You lose your practice. You spend the next 40 years managing a condition that will never fully improve. You survive. Morgana pauses. But you won't live. And if I say yes, you live, truly live. For 7 years, you'll be free. Anita's hands shake. This is crazy. I'm hallucinating. I'm having a psychotic break. This isn't real. Test me, Morgana says. She holds out the collar. Put it on. If I'm a delusion, nothing will happen. If I'm real, she shrugs. You get what you asked for. Anita should leave. Should call 911. Should recognize this as exactly what her therapist warned her about. Magical thinking. The desperate belief that there's an easy solution to a neurological problem that requires years of work. But her hands are already reaching for the collar. Because the truth she hasn't admitted to anyone, not even Dr. Patel, is that she's been looking for this, hoping for this, praying for some impossible solution that would let her escape herself without dying. And here it is. Leather and silver, and the promise of silence. 7 years, she whispers. 7 years. Morgana confirms. Then you come back, human. Cured. Cured? The curse will break. The wolf will die, and you'll be yourself again. Morgana's eyes glitter in the streetlight. Better than yourself. Because you'll have had 7 years to heal. 7 years where your brain wasn't attacking you. 7 years of peace. It's a lie. Anita knows it's a lie. But she's so tired of fighting her own mind that she doesn't care. She takes the collar. The leather is warm, almost alive. She lifts it to her throat. Last chance, Morgana says. Once it's fastened, there's no going back until the curse breaks. 7 years. No visits home. No human contact. Just you and the wolf. Anita thinks about her apartment. The locks. The rituals. The thoughts that scream and never stop screaming. She thinks about her last client. A woman with contamination OCD who cried in session because she couldn't touch her own daughter without washing her hands 50 times first. Anita had given her evidence-based treatment, exposure therapy, SSRIs, cognitive restructuring, all the right answers. And she'd gone home and washed her hands until they bled. Because knowing the right answers doesn't mean you can follow them. Do it, Anita says. She fastens the collar around her throat. For a moment, nothing happens. Then, the world explodes, not outward, but inward. Every sense amplifying, sharpening, crystallizing into something so vivid, it's almost painful. She can smell the hot dogs from the vendor 6 blocks away, can hear a rat scurrying in the bushes 50 yards distant, can taste the air, and it tells her stories about rain coming and someone smoking weed in an apartment overlooking the park, and fear and joy, and all the emotions humans leak into the world like pheromones. Her bones crack, restructure, reform, fur erupts across her skin like wildfire, her face elongates into a muzzle, her hands become paws, and the thoughts, the beautiful, terrible, constant thoughts, they go silent, not absent, not erased, just, quiet, simple, clean. The wolf's brain is a river, and Anita has been a dam about to break for so long she'd forgotten what flow felt like. She looks up at Morgana with new eyes, amber eyes, predator eyes, and she feels nothing but the present moment, no past, no future. No obsessions about locks or contamination or whether she said the wrong thing in a conversation 3 years ago. Just ground beneath paws, air and lungs, night surrounding her like a blanket. Peace. Morgana smiles. 7 years, Anita. Use them wisely. And then she's gone, dissolving into shadow. And Anita? No, not Anita. The wolf turns and runs into the trees, into the darkness, into 7 years of blessed, perfect silence. Anita jerks awake in the narrow bed of the studio apartment the city provided for reintegration cases. Her heart pounds. Her hands clutch the sheets. She's been dreaming about the collar, about the choice, about Morgana's face as Anita fastened the leather around her own throat. And the thing Anita is only now remembering, Morgana didn't force her. Morgana didn't trick her. Morgana offered. And Anita chose. Which means, Anita stumbles to the bathroom and vomits into the toilet, retching until there's nothing left. She washes her hands, counts to 4, washes them again. Again. The water runs red from where she scrubbed, her knuckles raw. The wolf didn't wash. The wolf didn't need to. She looks at herself in the mirror. Pale skin, dark circles under eyes that are brown now. Human brown, not amber. She looks breakable, fragile, like a woman constructed of paper and fear. I chose this, she whispers to her reflection. Not the curse. The curse was what came after. But walking to the park that night, sitting on that bench, reaching for that collar, those were choices. Desperate choices. Suicidal choices, maybe. But choices nonetheless. Which means breaking the curse, killing Morgana, tearing out the witch's throat, forcing herself back into humanity that was also a choice. And Anita is beginning to suspect it was the wrong one. She checks the door lock. Deadbolt, secure. Chain secure. Doorknob secure. Checks again. 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 It takes 45 minutes before she can walk away. The wolf would have checked once and slept. But the wolf is dead. And Anita killed her. And the question that keeps her awake until dawn, counting ceiling cracks and checking the lock every 12 minutes, is this. If Morgana offered her the collar right now, at 4 a.m., with her hands bleeding and her mind screaming and the rituals looping like a broken record, would Anita take it again? And the answer, God help her, the answer is yes. Without hesitation. Without doubt. Yes. Which means Lorelei was right. The curse wasn't the problem. Being cured is. The wolf doesn't have language, but she has knowing. She knows. Hunger. And the rabbit's fear scent. And the perfect mathematics of pursuit. She knows. Cold water from the stream, and how it tastes of stone and distance. She knows. The moon's pull, and the way it makes her want to sing. What she doesn't know, what the wolf can't know, because the wolf's brain doesn't have the architecture for it, is regret. The human Anita is still there, somewhere in the depths. Compressed. Sleeping. dreaming human dreams that the wolf doesn't understand and doesn't need to understand. But sometimes, in the space between sleep and waking, the human surfaces like a drowning person gasping for air, and she feels the wolf's peace, and she thinks, This is what my brain was supposed to feel like all along. And then she sinks again, and the wolf continues. And the years pass like water flowing downhill. Inevitable, natural, right. The wolf doesn't count. The wolf doesn't check. The wolf doesn't spiral into obsessions about whether she locked a door she doesn't have in an apartment she doesn't remember. The wolf just is. And somewhere deep in the compressed space where human Anita sleeps, she feels something she hasn't felt in years. Gratitude. Not for the curse, for the silence. I've been thinking about Lorelei, Anita says. The group goes quiet. Iris sets down her coffee. Anita, no, listen. What if she's right? What if the curse isn't something to break? What if it's something to understand? You're not seriously considering, David starts. I'm considering, Anita interrupts, that I had 7 years of peace, and I threw it away because I thought I was supposed to. Because that's what the narrative says. Break the curse, become human, live happily ever after. But what if that's just a story we tell ourselves because we're too afraid to admit the truth? Which is? Sam asks quietly. Anita looks around the circle at 11 broken people, trying to glue themselves back together with therapy and medication and twice-weekly meetings. That sometimes the monster is healthier than the human, she says. That sometimes the cage you were born with is worse than the cage someone offers you. That sometimes, her voice cracks, sometimes being cured is just another word for being trapped. You want to go back, Iris says. It's not a question. I want to stop suffering. Anita corrects. And if that means giving up my humanity, if that means choosing the wolf instead of having it forced on me, then yes. I want to go back. The room erupts in argument, but Anita isn't listening anymore, because she's already made her decision. She's going to find Siobhan. She's going to ask for the choice Morgana never gave her. And this time, when she becomes a wolf, it won't be a curse. It'll be a cure. Chapter 4. The Hidden Observer. The wolf has a territory. 60 square miles of Catskill wilderness, centered around a valley where deer migrate and streams run cold even in summer. She knows every boulder, every fallen log, every den where foxes raise their young, and every cliff where ravens nest. She is not alone. There are other wolves, not many, not a true pack, but individual wanderers like herself. She can smell them on the wind, mark their boundaries, avoid confrontation through the elegant language of scent and space. But there is one she cannot avoid. The black wolf. He appears on the ridge above her den on a Tuesday in November. If the wolf understood Tuesdays, understood months, understood human time at all. He's larger than she is, darker, with eyes that hold a quality she recognizes without being able to name it. Human. He's cursed, like her. The wolf's instinct is to drive him away. This is her territory, her hunting ground, but something stops her. Some deeper knowing that predates language, that lives in the space where human and animal overlap. She approaches cautiously. He sits. Waits. Non-aggressive. They circle each other, a dance of assessment. He smells of pine and distance and, underneath, something familiar. Medication. The chemical tang of psychiatric drugs, metabolized and sweated out, faint but present. He was human recently. Within weeks, they hunt together that night. It's not planned, not discussed, because wolves don't plan or discuss. But when she flushes a deer from the undergrowth, he's there to cut off its escape, and when they bring it down together, they share the kill without conflict. This becomes routine. Days pass into weeks, into months, and the black wolf becomes a constant. Not a mate, wolves mate for life. With ceremony and commitment, the wolf brain understands, but a companion. A presence. They don't communicate with words, because they don't have words. But they understand each other in the way that cursed things understand each other. Through proximity, through shared silence, through the peace of minds that have been simplified into something bearable. The wolf doesn't know that deep in her compressed human consciousness Anita is aware of him. Doesn't know that human Anita surfaces sometimes in dreams and feels something she hasn't felt in years. Connection. doesn't know that the black wolf is the only thing keeping her human side from dissolving entirely into animal contentment. Because the black wolf reminds her, wordlessly, that she is not just a wolf. She is a person who chose to become a wolf. And the difference matters. Even if she can't articulate why. Anita boards the bus to the Adirondacks with nothing but a backpack and the address Lorelei gave her. A hand-drawn map on the back of a receipt, showing a cabin 40 miles north of Lake Placid, accessible only by hiking trail. She didn't tell Iris she was leaving, didn't tell the Aftermath group, just walked out of her temporary housing at 4 a.m. After another sleepless night of checking locks and counting tiles, and performing mental rituals that left her exhausted and still anxious. Still afraid. Still trapped. The bus smells like diesel and other people's morning breath. Anita sits by the window and watches New York disappear in the rearview mirror. Buildings giving way to suburbs, giving way to forest. She counts the mile markers. 1, 2, 3, 4. She can't stop. It's been 2 weeks since she became human again, and the OCD has metastasized into something worse than it was before the curse. New obsessions. What if she's contaminated with wolfness? What if the curse didn't fully break? What if she transforms randomly and hurts someone? She checks her hands every 10 minutes for signs of fur. She avoids animals because what if proximity triggers something? She's lost 6 pounds because eating requires touching food, requires washing, requires rituals that take hours. She's dying. Not literally. Not yet. But slowly, her own mind is killing her, and the only thing that keeps her moving forward is the memory of 7 years when it didn't. Her phone buzzes. Text from Iris. "Where are you?" Anita turns off the phone. She doesn't need someone talking her out of this. Doesn't need the rational arguments about why giving up humanity is surrender, why she should try medication adjustments and intensive therapy and all the evidence-based treatments that didn't work before the curse and won't work now. She needs what she needed 7 years ago. Silence. The bus reaches Port Henry 4 hours later. Anita gets off, checks her backpack, map, still there, checks again, then forces herself to walk toward the trailhead before she can spiral into another checking loop. The hiking trail is marked with faded orange blazes. Anita follows them north, into forest that grows denser and darker with each mile. She's not in shape for this 7 years as a wolf kept her strong, but 2 weeks as a sedentary human with an eating disorder has left her weak. Her legs shake after the first hour. Her lungs burn after the second. But she keeps walking, because walking is movement, and movement is better than staying still with her thoughts. The trail climbs into mountains that still hold snow in their shadowed crevices despite it being October. Anita's breath plumes white. Her fingers go numb. She didn't pack well, another symptom of her deteriorating executive function, the inability to plan or organize that comes when your brain is too busy screaming to accomplish basic tasks. She should turn back. She keeps walking. At hour 5, she sees it. A cabin, small and weathered, smoke rising from a chimney. It looks like it's grown out of the forest itself, half wood and half living tree, roots tangling into foundation. Anita approaches. The door opens before she knocks. The woman standing in the doorway is nothing like Morgana. She's younger, maybe 40, with auburn hair and a long braid and green eyes that hold no malice, no hunger, just a deep and abiding tiredness. "You're early," the woman says. Her voice is soft, accented with something old world. Lorelei said 3 months. It's only been 2 weeks. I can't. Anita's voice breaks. I can't do this anymore. The woman Siobhan, it has to be Siobhan, steps aside. Come in. You look hypothermic. The cabin's interior is warm and cluttered. Herbs hanging from rafters, bookshelves crammed with volumes and languages Anita doesn't recognize. A fireplace crackling with wood that smells of cedar and something sweeter. There's a table, 2 chairs, and a bed in the corner. And on the wall, dozens of collars, leather and metal, each one slightly different. Some worn smooth with age, some new, some stained with what might be blood or might just be time. Anita stares at them. 237, Siobhan says, pouring tea from a kettle. Over 200 years. That's how many people I've offered the choice to. About half accept. The other half leave and try to heal the human way. She hands Anita a mug. The ones who accept don't come back. The ones who leave, sometimes they return. Sometimes they don't. Anita wraps her hands around the mug's warmth. Lorelei came back. Lorelei tried to be human for 4 months and nearly threw herself off a bridge. Siobhan sits across from her. She came back, crawling, begging. I don't enjoy that. I don't enjoy desperation. But I understand it. She pauses. I was like you once. Cursed? Human. Siobhan smiles sadly. 200 years ago, I had what you'd call severe depression. Melancholia, they called it then. I couldn't get out of bed. Couldn't eat. Couldn't see the point of continuing. And a witch, a real old world witch, not like Morgana who plays games, she offered me a choice. Become a witch myself, live forever, but lose the ability to feel human emotions. Become other. You took it. I took it. And for 50 years, I was not happy. Happiness requires human emotion, but I was functional, powerful, free. Siobhan looks into her tea. Then I learned to feel again, slowly, painfully. It took a century. And once I could feel, I understood what had been done to me. Not a curse, not a gift, just a trade. My humanity, for my survival. Do you regret it? Anita asks. Every day, Siobhan says, and never. She looks up. That's the truth they don't tell you about these choices. You can regret something and still know it was necessary. You can mourn what you gave up and still be grateful you survived. Anita sets down her mug. Her hands are shaking. I want the collar. I know. I want to be a wolf. Permanently. No breaking the curse. No coming back. Siobhan stands and walks to the window. Before we discuss that, I need you to see something. She points outside. In the tree line, barely visible in the fading afternoon light, sits a black wolf. Anita's heart stops. She knows that wolf. The memory surfaces from somewhere deep. Running together. Hunting together. The only constant in 7 years of solitude. The companion. The friend. His name is Remy. Siobhan says quietly. The name means nothing and everything. Anita's wolf memories are fragmentary, translated imperfectly into human language, but the recognition is visceral. That wolf. That specific wolf. Important. Somehow, he was cursed by Morgana 8 years ago, Siobhan continues. You met him 3 years into your curse, spent 4 years together in the woods, and then he did something extraordinary. He broke his curse specifically to find you, to help you break yours, to save you. Anita can't breathe. He became human again 2 years ago, Siobhan says. Spent 3 months searching the Catskills for you, but you'd moved territories. He never found you. And the searching, the obsession with finding you, saving you, it destroyed him. PTSD, panic attacks, intrusive thoughts about you dying alone. Sound familiar? Anita's hands grip the windowsill. So he came here, Siobhan says. And he took the collar. Chose to be a wolf, forever. And he's been waiting in these woods every single day for 2 years, hoping you'd break your curse, hoping you'd come here, hoping you'd choose to stay with him. Stop, Anita whispers. He loves you, Siobhan says. It's not romantic, not flowery. Just a fact, delivered with the weight of 2 centuries of watching people destroy themselves for each other. Or he did, when he was human. Now he's just a wolf who feels drawn to this place, who waits without knowing why, who hopes for something he can no longer name. Anita turns from the window. Why are you telling me this? Because you need to understand what you're choosing. Siobhan moves to the wall of collars. If you take this, you become a wolf permanently. You and Remy will be together. You'll hunt together, sleep together, exist together in that perfect animal simplicity. But you will never know him. Never understand that he loved you enough to break his own curse trying to save you. Never comprehend that he waited 2 years for you. As wolves, you'll be companions, maybe friends, but you'll never be what you could have been as humans. We can't be anything as humans, Anita says, voice rising. Because humans like us don't get to be happy. We just suffer until we die or until we're so medicated we're not really human anyway. Is that true? Siobhan asks. Or is that what your OCD tells you? The question lands like a slap. Anita opens her mouth, closes it, opens it again. That's not. Your OCD, Siobhan says, gentle but relentless, tells you that suffering is inevitable, that nothing will ever get better, that the only escape is to stop being human. But what if that's just another obsession? Another intrusive thought that feels true but isn't. You don't understand. I understand that I've been alive for 200 years, Siobhan interrupts. I understand that I've met thousands of people with minds like yours. And I understand that some of them healed. Not all, not most, but some. They found medications that worked. They found therapies that helped. They built lives that accommodated their limitations. They survived. And eventually, they lived. And the ones who didn't? Anita challenges. Siobhan gestures to the collars. They're wolves now. Or ravens. Or bears. Or dead. Because even choosing the animal doesn't always save you. Sometimes the curse breaks anyway. Sometimes you die in the woods. Sometimes, she pauses. Sometimes you spend 50 years as a wolf, and then the magic fails, and you come back human at 70 years old, with no language, no social skills, no way to reintegrate, and you die alone and confused. Anita sinks into a chair. You're saying it's not a solution. I'm saying it's a trade. Peace for possibility, silence for growth, simplicity for the chance, however small, that things might get better. Things won't get better. How do you know? Siobhan asks. You've been human again for 2 weeks. You haven't tried new medications. Haven't found a therapist who specializes in your specific presentation. Haven't given yourself time to adjust. You're making a permanent decision based on 2 weeks of data. I had 34 years of data before the curse, Anita says bitterly. It didn't get better then either. But it didn't kill you, Siobhan points out. You survived. And you might have eventually found something that helped. But you chose the curse instead, and now you're addicted to the peace it gave you. That's what this is, Anita. Addiction. You had 7 years of relief. And now you're chasing that high, willing to give up everything, your humanity, your future, your chance at real connection just to feel that silence again. Anita's hands clench. That's not fair. Isn't it? Siobhan sits across from her. I'm not judging you. I'm just naming it. Because if you take the collar right now, desperate and suffering and convinced there's no other option, you're not making a choice. You're compulsing. And I won't be party to that. So you won't give me the collar? I didn't say that. Siobhan stands, walks to the wall, and takes down a specific collar newer than the others. Dark brown leather with a copper buckle. I'll give you the collar, but not today. Not like this. She places it on the table between them. You're going to stay here for 3 days, Siobhan says. You're going to eat, sleep, rest. You're going to spend time with Remy, yes, with him, as a human while he's a wolf. You're going to see what it's like to be with him when you're on opposite sides of the species divide. And then, if you still want the collar, I'll give it to you. 3 days won't change anything. Then you have nothing to lose, Siobhan says. 3 days. That's my condition. Take it or leave. Anita looks at the collar on the table. So close. So possible. Then she looks out the window at the black wolf, at Remy sitting in the snow. Waiting. Always waiting. 3 days, Anita says. 3 days, Siobhan confirms. And Anita, I hope you change your mind. But if you don't, I'll honor your choice. That's the difference between me and Morgana. I give people time to choose wisely. She gave them exactly what they asked for in the moment they were least capable of asking. Anita doesn't respond, because she's thinking about Remy breaking his curse to find her, about him searching for 3 months, about him being so destroyed by not finding her that he gave up his humanity, about him waiting 2 years in these woods for her. And she's thinking, what kind of love is that? What kind of love survives transformation? And what kind of person is she? That she's willing to erase that love, erase the possibility of that love just to silence her own mind. She doesn't have an answer, but she has 3 days to find one. Remy sits in Siobhan's cabin, with his head in his hands, and says, I can't find her. I can't find her. His voice cracks on the words, breaks open like ice in spring. And what floods out is 3 months of searching. 3 months of failure. 3 months of obsessive thoughts that have carved channels in his brain deeper than any river. What if she's dead? What if she's suffering? What if she needed me and I wasn't there? The thoughts loop endlessly, screaming in the space where Wolf's simplicity used to live. Tell me about her, Siobhan says, pouring tea he won't drink. Anita. Remy says her name like it's the only word he knows. I don't know her, not really. We were wolves together for 4 years. We hunted, slept near each other, existed in that perfect, simple way wolves do. But sometimes, he looks up, and his eyes are haunted. Sometimes I'd surface, my human consciousness would rise up for just a moment, and I'd see her, really see her, not just a wolf, a person, trapped like I was trapped, and I'd feel, he can't finish. Love, Siobhan supplies. No, yes, something, connection, recognition, the sense that we were the same, her and me, both running from minds that were trying to kill us, both grateful for the curse, even though we knew it was wrong to be grateful. He stands, paces. When my curse broke, I thought, finally I can find her. Help her. Save her. Be human together. Maybe, he laughs bitterly, maybe fall in love for real this time. With words, with understanding. But you can't find her. I've searched every mile of our old territory. She's gone, moved on. And I don't even know if she remembers me. The wolf brain doesn't hold memories the same way. She might not, she probably doesn't. Care about you the way you care about her, Siobhan finishes. Remy nods, miserable. So, what do you want? Siobhan asks. The collar. I want to go back. Not because I'll find her as a wolf, I probably won't, but because at least I won't be tormented by not finding her. At least I'll stop. He gestures helplessly at his head. Stop this. The constant thoughts, the panic attacks, the intrusive images of her dying alone. If I'm a wolf, I can't obsess, can't search, can't suffer. Siobhan is quiet for a long moment. Then, what if I told you she's going to break her curse eventually? What if I told you that when she does, she might come looking for answers? She might end up here, in this cabin, asking for the same thing you're asking for? Remy goes very still. Would you tell her about me? I would tell her that someone waited for her, that someone loved her, that she's not as alone as she thinks. And then she'll have to choose. Stay human and carry that knowledge, or become a wolf and forget. Remy closes his eyes. When he opens them, there are tears. If she chooses the collar, at least we'd be together. Even if we don't remember, even if we're just wolves, that's better than this. Better than being human and never finding her and slowly losing my fucking mind. Is it? Siobhan asks. Or is it just another way of running? I don't care anymore, Remy says. I'm tired. I'm so tired. Just give me the collar. Siobhan stands, goes to the wall, and selects one. Black leather. Silver buckle. If she comes, Remy says as he takes it. Tell her I'm sorry I couldn't find her in time. Tell her I tried. I'll tell her, Siobhan promises. Remy fastens the collar around his throat. The last thing he says, before the transformation takes him. Anita. Her name is Anita. Don't let me forget. But then he's changing. Bones cracking, fur erupting, and the black wolf that emerges doesn't remember any names at all. He just knows he needs to wait. For what? He doesn't know. But he waits anyway. Anita stands at the window, watching the black wolf in the clearing. Remy. His name is Remy, and he broke his curse to find her, and he's been waiting for 2 years, and she didn't know, couldn't have known, but now she does know, and she can't unknow it. Does he remember? She asks Siobhan. Anything about me? About being human? Sometimes I think he dreams, Siobhan says. She's making dinner venison stew, ironic given the circumstances. I see him sleeping sometimes, and his paws twitch like he's running towards something, or someone. Anita's chest aches. She killed Morgana, thinking it would free her. But all she did was ensure Remy would never find what he was searching for. Because she's here, and he's there, and there's a species between them. I want to go out there, Anita says. You can. He won't hurt you. How do you know? Siobhan smiles sadly. Because even as a wolf, some part of him recognizes you. Watch. She opens the cabin door. The black wolf's head lifts immediately, amber eyes fixing on the doorway. On Anita, for a moment. Neither moves. Then Anita steps outside, into the snow, into the cold, into the space between human and animal. The wolf stands but doesn't approach, waiting, always waiting. Anita takes one step forward, then another. The wolf's tail wags once, tentative, hopeful, and Anita realizes he does remember, not consciously, not with words or understanding, but somewhere in his wolf brain, compressed and dreaming, is the memory of running beside her, of hunting together, of those perfect, simple years when they were both wolves and both free. She's 5 feet away when the wolf takes a step toward her. 3 feet, 1 foot, and then he's there, close enough to touch. And Anita reaches out her hand shaking, contaminated by her own fear, and touches his head. His fur is coarse and warm. He leans into her touch. And for just a moment, Anita feels it. Connection. Not romantic love, not human complexity, but something older and simpler. Pack. Belonging. The recognition of shared experience. This wolf knew her when she was a wolf. This wolf waited for her when he was human. And now they're on opposite sides of an unbridgeable divide. And Anita has to decide whether to cross back to his side or ask him to cross to hers. Except he can't cross. He chose permanently. So the only question is whether she'll join him. The wolf Remy presses his muzzle against her palm, and Anita thinks, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I couldn't be who you needed me to be. She stays outside with him until full dark, until Siobhan calls her in for dinner. And even then, she doesn't want to leave. Because out there, with the wolf, her mind is quieter. Not silent, she's still human, still counting, still checking, but quieter. And she wonders, is that because of the wolf? Or because, for the first time in 2 weeks, she's not alone? She doesn't know, but she has 3 days to figure it out. Chapter 5. The archaeology deepens. Anita wakes to the sound of howling. Not close, maybe a mile away. Echoing through the mountains, but unmistakable. The black wolf. Remy. Calling to something or someone. She lies in the narrow bed, Siobhan provided, and listens to the sound cut through the pre-dawn dark, and something in her chest responds. Not with fear, with longing. The wolf would answer. The wolf would howl back, would run toward that sound, would find him, and exist beside him without question or complexity. But Anita is human, so she just lies there and counts her heartbeats until the howling stops. 1, 2, 3, 4. She slept 4 hours last night, more than she slept since the curse broke. Maybe because she's exhausted from the hike. Maybe because Siobhan made her chamomile tea with something else in it, something herbal and old that smelled like forests. Maybe because for the first time in 2 weeks, she's somewhere her brain categorizes as safe. Or maybe it's because Remy is outside. She gets up, checks the door locked. Though why would Siobhan lock it out here in the middle of nowhere? Checks the window, latches, secure, washes her hands in the basin. Siobhan left counts to 20, forces herself to stop at 20, feels the anxiety spike but breathes through it. When she emerges from the small bedroom, Siobhan is already awake, sitting at the table with coffee and a book that looks older than countries. He calls every morning, Siobhan says without looking up. Dawn, like clockwork. I think some part of him remembers that humans wake with the sun, so he calls, hoping someone will answer. Anita's throat tightens. Has anyone answered? You did. Last night. Not with sound, but with presence. He knew you were there. He didn't leave the clearing until you went inside. Siobhan closes her book. Coffee? Anita checks her hands. No visible dirt. But are they clean? Really clean? She washed them, but what if? Yes. Thank you. Siobhan pours without comment, doesn't mention the hand-checking, doesn't offer platitudes about how it'll get better. She just hands Anita a mug and says, There's oatmeal on the stove. You need to eat. You're underweight. Anita is underweight. She knows this. Eating requires touching. Food requires plates, requires utensils, requires washing, requires rituals that take so long the food gets cold, and then it's contaminated, and then she can't eat it, and the cycle spirals until she's just not eating at all. But she's also starving. She forces herself to scoop oatmeal into a bowl, forces herself to sit, forces herself to lift the spoon to her mouth, even though her brain is screaming about bacteria and contamination. And what if the bowl wasn't washed properly? And what if it's clean? Siobhan says, reading her. I washed it myself. With soap. Hot water. It's safe. The certainty in her voice cuts through the noise. Just a little. Enough for Anita to take a bite. Then, another. Then, another. She eats half the bowl before the anxiety wins and she has to stop. Good, Siobhan says. That's more than yesterday. Tomorrow you'll eat more. How do you know? Because I've been watching people heal for 200 years, Siobhan says simply. And healing isn't linear, but it is cumulative. Every bite counts. Every moment you resist the compulsion counts. Every time you sit with the discomfort instead of running from it, you're building tolerance. It doesn't feel like building, Anita mutters. It feels like drowning. Yes, Siobhan agrees. It does, but you're not drowning. You're learning to swim in water that's always been this deep. You just had 7 years where you didn't have to. Anita sets down her spoon. Is that what you're doing? Teaching me to swim? I'm giving you 3 days to remember that you can swim. Siobhan corrects. That you survived 34 years before the curse. That you have skills and strength you've forgotten. And that maybe you don't need to become a wolf to survive. Maybe you just need to remember how to be a human who struggles. That's a terrible sales pitch, Anita says. Siobhan laughs. I'm not selling anything. I'm offering you information so you can make an informed choice. Unlike Morgana, the name sits between them like a stone. Tell me about Morgana, Anita says. How is she not dead? I killed her. I tore out her throat. I felt her die. Siobhan's expression darkens. Witches like Morgana, old ones. Curse makers, they're not alive in the way you understand life. They're more like parasites. Ideas made flesh. They feed on desperation. And as long as desperate people exist, they can reconstitute. You killed her body. But the idea of her, the need for her, that's still out there. So she'll come back. She already has, Siobhan says. Somewhere. In some city. Sitting on some bench waiting for someone broken enough to accept her offer. Anita's hands clench around her mug. Then I didn't accomplish anything. Killing her. Breaking the curse. It was all pointless. No, Siobhan says firmly. You freed yourself. That's not pointless. But freedom isn't the same as healing. You're free of Morgana's curse, but you're not free of the thing that made you vulnerable to her in the first place. My OCD. You're suffering, Siobhan corrects. The OCD is just the mechanism. The suffering is the wound, and Morgana didn't create that wound. She just offered to bandage it with claws. Anita looks out the window. The sun is rising, painting the snow gold and pink. In the clearing, the black wolf sits watching the cabin, waiting. I want to see him, Anita says. Really see him. Can I go out there? Of course, Siobhan says. But Anita, be careful. Not of him, of yourself. Don't romanticize what he is now. He's a wolf, permanently. He's not going to transform back into a man who can sweep you off your feet. He's not even going to understand if you talk to him. He'll recognize your presence, maybe feel something he can't name, but he won't know you. I know. Do you? Siobhan asks. Because I've seen people make this choice before. They take the collar thinking they'll be together. That somehow being the same species will create the connection they couldn't have as humans. But it doesn't work that way. You'll be two wolves. You might stay near each other. You might even feel affection. But you won't have what you could have had as humans. Conversation, understanding, shared memory, growth. Humans like us don't get those things anyway, Anita says bitterly. We're too broken. Some are, Siobhan admits. Some people's brains are so damaged by illness that they never fully recover. But most people with OCD can find some quality of life. Not perfect. Not easy. But livable. You didn't try long enough before you accepted Morgana's curse. And you're not trying long enough now. Anita stands. I'm going outside. Siobhan doesn't stop her. The snow crunches under Anita's boots as she walks toward the clearing. The air is sharp and cold and smells like pine and wood smoke and something wilder underneath animal musk, predator scent. The black wolf watches her approach. He doesn't stand, doesn't move, just tracks her with amber eyes that hold something too intelligent to be purely animal. Anita stops 10 feet away, close enough to see the details. The scar across his shoulder, the gray starting to thread through his muzzle, the way his breath plumes white in the cold. Remy, she says. His ears prick forward at the sound, but there's no recognition. Not really. Just the acknowledgement of noise, of potential meaning. I don't know if you can understand me, Anita continues, voice shaking. I don't know if anything human is left in there, but I need to say this. So, she takes a breath. Thank you, for trying to find me, for breaking your curse to save me, for waiting 2 years in these woods hoping I'd come. That's the kindest thing anyone has ever done for me. The wolf tilts his head, processing the tone, if not the words. I'm sorry I can't love you the way you loved me, Anita says, and her voice cracks. I'm sorry I'm so broken that the only peace I've ever found was as an animal. I'm sorry that even now, knowing what you sacrificed, I still want the collar. I still want to stop being human. What does that make me? The wolf stands, takes 2 steps toward her. Anita freezes. He's close enough now that she can see the individual hairs of his coat, the whiskers around his muzzle, the slight limp in his right hind leg, close enough to kill her if he wanted to. But he just sits again, closer now, and waits. And Anita realizes, this is what love looks like when it's been stripped down to its most essential form. No words, no promises, no complexity, just presence, just waiting, just being there in case you need something. She sits down in the snow across from him. They watch each other, and for the first time since she became human again, Anita's mind goes quiet. Not silent, she's still aware of the cold, still counting the wolf's breaths, 12 per minute, still cataloging details obsessively, but the volume turns down. The screaming becomes background noise, because the wolf doesn't demand anything from her, doesn't expect her to be fixed or healed or better. He just sits with her, in the cold, in the silence, in the shared understanding of what it means to be trapped inside a body that doesn't match your needs. She doesn't know how long they sit there, minutes, hours. Time does something strange when you're with a wolf, becomes less linear, more cyclical, measured in breaths and heartbeats instead of seconds. Eventually, Siobhan calls her in for lunch. The wolf watches her stand, watches her walk away, and when Anita looks back, he's still sitting there, waiting. Always waiting. And Anita thinks, what if waiting is its own kind of love? What if presence is enough? But then her human brain kicks back in with its endless questions. But is it enough for me? Can I build a life on waiting and presence and silence? Or am I just running again, choosing the easy peace over the hard growth? She doesn't know. But she still has 2 more days to figure it out. The wolf runs. Not from anything, not toward anything. Just runs because running is what wolves do, what bodies are for, and the joy of it, pure, uncomplicated, animal joy, floods through her like sunlight. She's been a wolf for 3 months now, and the human Anita is so deeply compressed that she barely surfaces anymore. Just occasionally, in dreams, in the space between sleep and waking, a flicker of memory. An apartment, locks, hands washing and washing and washing until they bled. But those memories feel distant now, abstract, like stories someone told her about a stranger. The wolf's life is simple. Hunt, eat, sleep, run, drink from cold streams, mark territory, avoid the bigger predator. A bear, scarred and ancient, who rules the northern valley, watch the sky, feel the moon's pull. No checking, no counting, no spiraling thoughts about whether she locked a door or said the wrong thing or contaminated herself with invisible dangers. Just body, breath, movement, existence. It's the first time in her adult life that the consciousness that used to be Anita, has experienced peace. And deep in the compressed space where her human mind sleeps, a thought forms, barely conscious. I never want to go back. The wolf doesn't hear it. The wolf just runs. But the thought is there, growing like a seed in dark soil. 7 years isn't enough. I want this forever. And that's when the curse begins. It's real work, not transforming her body, but transforming her want, making her desire the very thing that's destroying her humanity. Because that's what curses do. They make you grateful for your cage. Tell me about the people who didn't take the collar, Anita says over dinner. The ones who left, who tried to heal as humans. Siobhan sets down her fork. Why? Because I need to know if it's possible. Real, actual success stories. Not just, it gets better platitudes. Siobhan is quiet for a moment, then nods. All right. There was a woman named Rebecca, cursed to a raven for 9 years. Severe anxiety, intrusive thoughts, couldn't function, broke the curse, came here 5 years ago, wanted the collar desperately. I made her wait a week instead of 3 days. And she left, went back to the city, started intensive therapy, tried 4 different medications before finding one that worked. Took her 3 years, but last I heard, she's managing. Not cured, you're never cured, but managing. She has a job, relationships, a life. Last you heard? Anita presses. You don't know for sure? I don't track people, Siobhan says. I'm not running a study. But she sent me a letter 2 years ago, thanking me for making her wait, for giving her time to choose clearly. 1 person, Anita says. Out of how many? Out of 43 who left without taking the collar, Siobhan says. I've gotten letters from 16, doing well enough to write, at least. The others. She shrugs. I don't know. Maybe they're fine. Maybe they're dead. Maybe they're suffering in silence. I don't know. 16 out of 43, Anita repeats. That's less than half. Yes. So my odds of healing as a human are less than 50%. Your odds of reporting healing are less than 50%, Siobhan corrects. Some people heal and don't feel the need to tell me about it. They move on. And frankly, Anita, the statistics don't matter. Because you're not a statistic. You're a specific person with specific biology and specific circumstances. The only question that matters is, what do you need? Anita pushes food around her plate. I need the thoughts to stop. Forever? Or just for a moment so you can catch your breath? The question hangs there. Anita realizes she doesn't know the answer. For 7 years, she had forever silence. And she's been chasing that ever since she woke up human. But what if forever silence isn't actually what she needs? What if she just needs space? Time? A break from the relentless assault of her own mind? I don't know, she admits. That's why you're here for 3 days, Siobhan says. To figure out what you actually need versus what your OCD is telling you that you need. Because here's the thing about OCD, Anita, it lies. It tells you that if you don't perform the ritual, something terrible will happen. It tells you that if you don't wash your hands 1 more time, you'll die. It tells you that if you don't check the lock, everything will burn. And none of it's true. It feels true. I know. Siobhan says gently. That's the cruelty of it. The thoughts feel more real than reality. But feeling isn't the same as being. And choosing the collar because your OCD is screaming that humanity is unbearable, that's not a choice. That's a compulsion. That's a compulsion. Anita's eyes burn. So what do? You sit with the discomfort, Siobhan says. You feel the anxiety without acting on it. You let the thoughts scream without obeying them. You prove to your brain that you can survive the feeling without escaping into animal mind. And if, after 3 days of that, you still want the collar, if you choose it with a calm mind instead of a panicked one, then I'll give it to you. And if I can't sit with it, if the anxiety is too much, then we'll find other ways to manage it, Siobhan says. I'm a witch, Anita. I have more tools than collars. I can make you tea that dulls the edges. I can teach you meditation techniques that actually work for OCD brains. I can show you magic that isn't transformation, magic that's just support. Small interventions. Not cures, but helps. Anita looks at her plate. She's eaten almost nothing. Tomorrow, Siobhan says, you're going to spend the whole day with Remy. As a human. I want you to see what it's really like to be with him when you're on opposite sides of the species divide. I want you to feel the loneliness of it. The limitation. The way presence isn't the same as connection. Why? Anita asks. Why are you trying so hard to talk me out of this? Siobhan meets her eyes. Because I'm trying to talk you into making a real choice. Not a compulsion disguised as a decision. Not a desperate grab for relief. A real, clear-eyed choice about what kind of life you want and what you're willing to sacrifice for it. She stands, begins clearing plates. I've given 237 people collars over 200 years, she says. And I've regretted about a third of them. The ones who chose in desperation. The ones who didn't wait. The ones who could have healed but didn't give themselves the chance. I don't want you to be another regret. What if I'm not capable of healing? Anita asks quietly. What if my brain is just too broken? Then you take the collar on day 3, Siobhan says. And I'll give it to you without judgment. But first, you try. You spend 2 more days being human, being uncomfortable, being with Remy as he is now, and you see if maybe there's a different path. Anita nods. She doesn't believe there is. But she has 2 more days to prove herself wrong. Or right. She doesn't know which one she's hoping for. Anita lies awake, counting the wooden beams across the ceiling. 17. Not divisible by 4. Wrong, wrong, wrong. She gets up, checks the door, locked, checks the window, latched. Washes her hands in the basin. 20 seconds. Counts them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The ritual helps. Briefly. Then the anxiety floods back, and she's checking again, washing again, trapped in the loop. Outside, a wolf howls. Remy. And Anita realizes he can't check anything, can't wash anything, can't perform any ritual at all. He just exists with whatever discomfort arises. Because wolves don't have the cognitive architecture for compulsions. Is that freedom? Or is that just a different kind of prison, one where you can't even try to manage your anxiety? You just have to endure it? She doesn't know. But tomorrow, she'll spend the day with him. And maybe she'll figure out whether the wolf's simplicity is peace or just another form of suffering she can't see from the outside. She checks the door one more time. Still locked. And finally, exhausted, she sleeps. Chapter 6. Anita wakes to Remy's howl again. But this time, she's ready for it. She dresses quickly. Jeans, thermal shirt, the thick wool sweater Siobhan left folded on the chair, and goes outside before the anxiety can trap her in morning rituals. The cold hits like a slap. The sun isn't up yet, just a promise of light bleeding across the eastern peaks. And in the clearing, the black wolf sits waiting, breath steaming in the pre-dawn dark. Hi, Anita says. Her voice sounds too loud in the silence. The wolf's ears prick forward. He stands, takes a few steps toward her, then sits again, waiting for her to close the distance. She does. She sits in the snow 10 feet from him, close enough to see the details. The way his coat is thicker on one side, like he sleeps curled in a specific position. The small notch missing from his left ear. The way his eyes track her movements with an intelligence that feels almost human. Almost. Siobhan says I should spend the day with you, Anita says. She wants me to understand what it's really like. Being with you when I'm this and you're that. The wolf tilts his head at the sound of her voice. Processing tone, maybe. Or just reacting to noise. Anita pulls her knees to her chest. I don't know what to say to you. I don't know if you understand anything. I don't know if the Remy who loved me is still in there somewhere or if he's just gone. Dissolved into wolf brain. And I don't know which would be worse, if you're suffering in there, trapped and aware, or if you're just at peace. Simple. Free. The wolf lies down, settling into the snow. His amber eyes never leave her face. I killed the witch who cursed you, Anita continues. Morgana. I tore out her throat. I thought that was heroism. That was me taking control. Breaking free. But all I did was ensure you'd never find what you were looking for. Because I became human again. And you're..." Her voice cracks. "You're still a wolf. Forever. Because of me." The wolf's tail thumps once against the snow, not understanding, just responding. The way dogs respond to emotional tone without comprehending the words. And that's when it hits Anita. He's not a person anymore. Not really. Whatever Remy was, his hopes, his love, his desperate search for her, it's compressed so deep that it might as well not exist. She's talking to a wolf who feels vaguely drawn to her presence, nothing more. The loneliness of it crashes over her like a wave. "I'm so sorry," she whispers. The wolf doesn't respond, because he can't, because wolves don't respond to apologies, because language is a human thing and he's not human anymore. They sit together as the sun rises, painting the snow gold and pink and orange. Birds begin to sing. Somewhere in the distance, a branch cracks under the weight of ice. The world wakes up around them, indifferent to their tragedy. And Anita thinks, "This is what I'm choosing. This silence, this distance, this loneliness dressed up as peace. Is that better than human suffering?" She doesn't know yet, but she's starting to suspect the answer is no. The wolf finds a dead fawn near the river. Not killed by predator, no signs of struggle, no blood except what leaked from nose and mouth after death. Just dead. Disease, maybe. Or weakness. Or the random cruelty of nature that takes young things before they're ready. The wolf sniffs the corpse, assessing. The meat is fresh enough to eat. She's hungry. She should eat. But something stops her. Deep in the compressed space where human Anita sleeps, a thought surfaces like a bubble rising through deep water. That's someone's child. The wolf doesn't understand the thought. Doesn't have the cognitive architecture for concepts like someone or child, or the moral weight of eating something that had a mother who might grieve. But the thought is there, ghostly and insistent. And it makes the wolf hesitate. She circles the fawn, sniffs again. Her stomach growls, and human Anita, half dreaming in the depths, feels a spike of something she hasn't felt in 5 years. Guilt. Not logical guilt. Not guilt based on any actual transgression. Just the old familiar sensation of having done something wrong, or being about to do something wrong, or existing in a state where wrongness is always possible. The OCD guilt. The wolf shakes herself, dislodging the feeling like water from her coat, and walks away from the fawn. She'll hunt something else, something living, something that runs. But for the rest of that day, human Anita is more present than she's been in years. Surfacing, remembering, experiencing the faint, terrible return of human conscience. And that night, the wolf dreams. Not wolf dreams of running and hunting and territory. Human dreams. She dreams of an apartment with 3 locks, of hands washing under scalding water, of a therapist's office and a voice saying, "The thoughts aren't real, Anita. They can't hurt you." She dreams of the moment before she put on the collar, and in the dream, she makes a different choice. She walks away. She goes home. She survives. The wolf wakes with something wet on her muzzle. Tears. Impossible tears, because wolves don't cry, and for one terrible moment, she's not a wolf at all. She's Anita. Trapped, aware, horrified. And then the wolf brain reasserts itself, compressing the human consciousness back down, and the moment passes. But it happened. And deep in the place where human Anita lives, a question forms. How many more moments like this will I have over 7 years? How many times will I surface, remember, suffer, and sink again? Is this peace? Or is this just a different kind of torture, one where I can't even scream? The wolf doesn't answer, because the wolf can't. She just curls up and sleeps and dreams of running. But the question remains. "Come on," Anita says to the wolf. "Siobhan said I should spend the day with you. So let's." I don't know. Do wolf things? The wolf stands, stretches, and begins walking into the trees. Anita follows. It's awkward at first. She's human slow, crashing through underbrush, while the wolf moves like liquid shadow, silent and efficient. But he keeps stopping, waiting for her to catch up, then continuing at a pace she can match. They walk for an hour into deep forest where the snow is thicker, untouched by anything but deer tracks and bird shadows. The wolf pauses occasionally to sniff the air, to mark a tree, to investigate something Anita can't see or smell or understand. And Anita watches him, trying to imagine what it would be like to be him, to have his simplicity, his focus, his freedom from the endless internal monologue that defines human consciousness. It looks peaceful, but is it? Do you ever wish you could tell me what it's like? Anita asks. Being a wolf? Is it everything I remember? Or have I romanticized it? The wolf looks at her, head tilted. No answer. No understanding. Just that patient, animal gaze. I'm going to tell you about something, Anita says, needing to fill the silence with words even if he doesn't understand them. About what happened 3 days ago, when I broke the curse. She sits on a fallen log. The wolf sits nearby, watching. I woke up human in Riverside Park, Anita begins. Naked, screaming, trying to bite through a collar that wasn't there anymore. And the first thing I felt before relief, before gratitude, before anything was rage. Pure, howling rage. Because I was human again. Because the silence was gone. Because my brain came flooding back with all its obsessions and compulsions and intrusive thoughts, and it felt like being buried alive. The wolf's ear twitches. A fly maybe, or wind. They put me in a psychiatric hospital, Anita continues. 72 hours, standard hold, and the doctors kept asking if I was suicidal, if I wanted to hurt myself, if I understood where I was, and I kept thinking, I don't want to die, I just want to stop being. And that's worse, isn't it? Wanting non-existence more than death? The wolf lies down, resting his muzzle on his paws. Comfortable, patient. Iris, she runs the group for people like me, people who broke curses. She told me it gets easier, that I just need time to adjust. But Remy, her voice catches on his name, you didn't adjust, did you? You tried. 3 months you tried, and then you came here and chose this. Chose Forever Wolf. And I understand why. I really do. Because 2 weeks as a human has nearly destroyed me, so I can't imagine what 3 months felt like. The wolf's eyes are half closed now. Dozing, maybe. Or just resting while she talks. But here's what I'm realizing, Anita says quietly. You can't answer me. You can't tell me if this is better. You can't tell me if you have regrets. You can't tell me if some part of you is screaming inside a wolf brain that won't let you scream out loud. I'm sitting here trying to understand if choosing the collar is wisdom or surrender, and the only person who could answer that question you can't speak. She stands, walks closer to the wolf, kneels in the snow beside him. If you could talk, she whispers, what would you tell me? Would you say, don't do it, don't make my mistake? Or would you say, yes, join me, this is peace? The wolf opens his eyes, looks at her with that amber gaze that holds something too intelligent to be only animal, but not intelligent enough to be human. And Anita realizes she's asking the wrong question. The question isn't what Remy would tell her. The question is what she's willing to give up to never have to ask. Siobhan is waiting on the porch when Anita returns, the wolf trailing a respectful distance behind. How was your morning? Siobhan asks. Lonely, Anita says honestly. He's not a person anymore. Not really. And I kept trying to have a conversation, to understand him, to connect, and I just couldn't. Because there's nothing to connect to, not in a human way. And yet you stayed with him all morning, Siobhan observes. Because the alternative was being alone with my thoughts, Anita says. At least with him, I'm distracted, occupied, not spiraling. So, he's a tool, Siobhan says. Not judgmental, just factual. A way to manage your anxiety. Anita flinches. That's not, I didn't mean, I'm not criticizing, Siobhan says. I'm clarifying, because if you take the collar, that's what you'll be to each other. Tools for managing the discomfort of existence. He'll be presence, and you'll be presence, and that's all. No growth, no challenge, no evolution, just maintenance. Anita sits on the porch steps, exhausted. Is that so bad, just maintaining, just existing without suffering? That depends, Siobhan says, on whether you think existing is enough. Some people do. Some people get to a point where they're so tired, so beaten down, that simply not suffering feels like victory. And for them, maybe the collar is the right choice. But? Anita prompts, because she can hear the but coming. But you're 34 years old, Siobhan says. You could live another 50 years. And I need you to consider, what if you spend 50 years as a wolf, and then the magic fails? It happens. Not often, but it happens. The spell deteriorates. The witch who cast it gets killed by someone stronger. Something disrupts the enchantment, and suddenly you're 74 years old, haven't been human in 50 years, have no language, no social skills, no money, no way to navigate the modern world. What then? Anita's blood runs cold. That can happen? It's rare, Siobhan says. Maybe 5% of permanent transformations eventually fail, but rare isn't never, and I've seen it happen. I've watched someone come back human after 40 years as a bird, and they died within a month because they couldn't remember how to be a person. You didn't mention this before, Anita says, voice sharp with accusation. Because I wanted you to choose the collar for the right reasons, if you choose it at all. Siobhan says, not because it's perfect, but because you understand the full scope of what you're trading. You're not just trading humanity for peace. You're gambling that the peace will last, that the magic will hold, that you'll die as a wolf instead of coming back human when you're too old to survive the transition. Anita's hands shake. She clasps them together, counts her fingers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Not divisible by 4. Wrong. Why are you telling me this now? She asks. Because today is day 2, Siobhan says. Tomorrow is decision day, and I need you to make that decision with full information, not partial truths, not fantasies about eternal peace, the real, complicated, risky truth. She sits beside Anita on the steps. There's something else, Siobhan says quietly. Something about Remy specifically. Something I should have told you yesterday, but I wanted you to spend time with him first. Anita's stomach drops. What? He's dying. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Anita whispers. He's 11 years old, Siobhan says. In wolf years, that's elderly. He was cursed at 33. He's been a wolf for 8 years total, 6 as Morgana's curse, 2 as a permanent transformation. Wolves live 12 to 14 years in the wild if they're lucky. He probably has a year left. Maybe 2. Anita can't breathe. No, that's not he can't. If you take the collar, Siobhan continues, voice gentle but relentless, you'll have maybe a year or 2 with him, and then he'll die, and you'll be a wolf alone, for the rest of your life, however long that is. No Remy, no companion. Just you and the wilderness and the animal brain that won't let you grieve properly because wolves don't grieve the way humans do. Anita stands, walks to the edge of the porch, grips the railing. Why didn't you tell me this yesterday? Because you needed to spend time with him without that knowledge coloring your perception, Siobhan says. You needed to see what he is now, not what he won't be later. And now you need to decide. Knowing that Remy is dying, knowing that the magic might fail, knowing that being a wolf doesn't guarantee eternal peace. Do you still want the collar? Anita looks out at the clearing where Remy sits, patient and still, waiting like he's been waiting for 2 years. 1 year left, maybe 2. And then she'd be alone. The thought cracks something open in her chest. Does he know? Anita asks. That he's dying? Wolves know when they're weakening, Siobhan says. Whether he understands it as dying, in the human sense, I don't know. But he's been moving slower this winter, sleeping more. That's why he stays near the cabin instead of roaming. He's conserving energy. Anita's vision blurs with tears. This isn't fair. No, Siobhan agrees. It's not. But fairness isn't a currency the universe trades in. The question is, what are you going to do with the information? Anita wipes her eyes, counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't know, she whispers. Then use tonight and tomorrow morning to figure it out. Siobhan says, because at noon tomorrow, you decide. Collar or no collar, wolf or human, and once you decide, there's no going back. She stands, goes inside, leaves Anita alone on the porch with the weight of impossible choices. And in the clearing, Remy lies down in the snow, old and tired and waiting, and Anita realizes he's not waiting for her to join him. He's waiting to die, and if she takes the collar, she won't be choosing him. She'll be choosing to watch him leave. The wolf finds the cabin in the Catskills, by accident. She's been ranging farther than usual, following a deer trail that leads through unfamiliar territory. And there, half hidden by trees and overgrowth, is a structure, human-made. Wood and stone and the smell of old magic. The wolf approaches cautiously. Inside, she can smell blood. Old blood and new blood. And something else, death. Recent death. She peers through a broken window. A woman lies on the floor, old, gray-haired, throat torn out, dead for maybe 2 days, judging by the smell. The wolf should leave. This is danger. This is human things, witch things, not for wolves. But something deep in her compressed consciousness surges upward, urgent and demanding. That's Morgana. That's the witch who cursed you. She's dead. Which means, the thought doesn't complete, because the wolf can't hold complex thoughts. But the urgency remains, pulling human Anita closer to the surface than she's been in years. And that's when it happens. The collar, worn for 6 years and 11 months, suddenly feels tight, constricting, wrong. The wolf claws at it, panicked, and it tears not physically, but magically. The leather unraveling, the spell fracturing, the curse breaking because the witch who cast it is dead, and dead witches can't maintain their magic. The transformation happens fast and violent. Fur retracting, bones cracking, body restructuring, and then Anita is on the floor of a witch's cabin, naked and human, and screaming because the thoughts, oh God, the thoughts, they come flooding back like a dam breaking. 7 years of compressed consciousness exploding into awareness all at once. She lies there for hours, sobbing, as her human brain tries to process 7 years of wolf memories, tries to rebuild neural pathways that have been dormant, tries to remember how to be human. And the first coherent thought she has is, I want to go back. Not gratitude for freedom, not relief at breaking the curse, just the desperate, howling need to return to the simplicity she's lost. She staggers out of the cabin at dawn, finds clothes in a hiker's abandoned backpack, makes her way to the nearest town, and by the time authorities find her in Riverside Park 3 days later, she's already started Googling how to get cursed again, because she didn't break the curse to be free. She broke it because Morgana died. And now she has to live with being human again. And it's killing her. Anita can't sleep. She's checked the door 17 times, washed her hands until they're raw, counted everything countable in the small room. And still, her mind screams. She gets up, goes to the main room. Siobhan is awake, reading by firelight. Can't sleep? Siobhan asks without looking up. Can you do it? Anita asks. Can you make it stop? Just for tonight? Please, I need one night where I'm not. Her voice breaks. Please. Siobhan closes her book. Studies Anita for a long moment. I can, she says finally, but it comes at a cost. What cost? If I give you magic-assisted sleep, true, deep, dreamless sleep where your brain is quiet, you'll sleep for 16 hours. And you'll wake up tomorrow at noon. Decision time. No morning to reconsider. No extra hours to process. You sleep through the anxiety, but you lose the time to sit with your choice. Anita doesn't hesitate. Do it. Siobhan stands, goes to her shelves, begins preparing something. Herbs and liquids, and whispered words in a language that predates English. She hands Anita a cup. Drink this. You'll sleep. And when you wake, you'll have 1 hour before you have to choose. Use it wisely. Anita drinks. The liquid tastes like earth and forgetting. She makes it back to her room before the darkness takes her. And for the first time in 2 weeks, Anita sleeps without counting, without checking, without spiraling. She sleeps like a wolf, deep and dreamless and free. Chapter 7. The Impossible Choice. Anita wakes to sunlight streaming through the window, and Siobhan sitting in the chair beside her bed. It's noon, Siobhan says. You have 1 hour. Anita sits up, disoriented. Her mind is clear, not silent, never silent. But the volume is turned down to something manageable. The magic sleep worked. For 16 hours, she wasn't tortured by her own thoughts. And now she's awake, and the clock is ticking. I need to see him, Anita says. Remy, He's outside, Siobhan says. He's been there all night, waiting. Of course he has. Anita dresses quickly, goes outside. The sun is high and bright, the snow starting to melt at the edges, spring threatening even in October's grip. And in the clearing, the black wolf lies in a patch of sunlight. He looks smaller than yesterday, older, tired, dying. Anita walks to him slowly, sits in the snow beside him. He lifts his head, and his amber eyes find hers. And for just a moment, just a flicker, she swears she sees recognition. Not wolf recognition, human recognition. Remy, somewhere deep, seeing her. I know you're in there, Anita whispers. Somewhere. Compressed and dreaming. And I need to tell you something before I decide. The wolf's tail thumps once, weakly. I didn't know, Anita says. That you broke your curse for me. That you searched for 3 months. That you loved me enough to destroy yourself trying to find me. I didn't know any of it until Siobhan told me. And her voice cracks. I don't know what to do with that information. Because I can't love you back. Not the way you loved me. I don't even remember you clearly. Just fragments. Just the sense that we hunted together, that we were companions. But love? I don't know if the wolf brain is capable of love. And if it's not, she stops, breathes, counts to 4. If it's not capable of love, then what you felt for me is gone, erased. And if I take the collar, if I join you, we'll be 2 wolves together for the year or 2 you have left. And then you'll die. And I'll be alone. A wolf alone. For 50 years maybe. Until I die or the magic fails and I come back human when I'm too old to survive it. The wolf's breathing is labored. Each inhale rattles slightly. Or I stay human, Anita continues. I go back to New York. I try medication and therapy and all the things that might work or might not work. I suffer through the OCD, the checking, the washing, the intrusive thoughts. I fight my own brain every single day for the rest of my life. But I'll be able to fight. I'll have agency, choice, the possibility of growth. She looks at the cabin, where Siobhan waits with the collar. I don't know which is braver, Anita whispers. Choosing the collar because I can't survive being human? Or refusing the collar because I'm too afraid to find out if I can? The wolf shifts, rests his muzzle on her knee. The weight is warm and solid and real. And Anita realizes this is the last choice she gets to make as a fully human person. After this, either she's a wolf forever, or she's a human who chose humanity despite its cost. Tell me what to do, she says to the wolf, knowing he can't. Knowing that's the point. His eyes close. He's tired, so tired. And Anita understands. She's not choosing for him. She's choosing for herself, and she's been avoiding that truth since she arrived. Anita sits at the table. The collar sits in front of her. Brown leather, copper buckle, simple and terrible. Siobhan pours tea. 30 minutes left. Do you know what you're going to choose? No, Anita says. Then, yes. Then, I don't know. Tell me the arguments, Siobhan says. Both sides, out loud. Sometimes hearing yourself think clarifies things. Anita wraps her hands around the tea mug, counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. Arguments for the collar, she begins. I get peace. Immediate, guaranteed peace. No more obsessions. No more compulsions. No more lying awake, counting ceiling tiles or washing my hands until they bleed. 7 years as a wolf was the healthiest I've ever been. Mentally. And if I take the collar, I get that back. Forever. Okay, Siobhan says. And against? Against. Anita's voice shakes. I lose everything that makes me human. Language, art, music, books, complex thought, the ability to grow or change or learn. I lose the possibility of healing. And I lose Remy, really lose him, because even if we're together for his last year, I won't understand what I'm losing when he dies. The wolf brain won't let me grieve properly. I'll just be confused, alone, waiting for something I can't name. What else? Siobhan prompts. I lose autonomy, Anita continues, the thoughts coming faster now. I'm making a choice that removes all future choices. I'm 24 years old. No, wait, 34. I lost track and I could live another 50 years. Do I really want to spend 50 years as a wolf based on 2 weeks of being human? Based on the worst 2 weeks, the acute phase right after breaking the curse, when of course everything feels unbearable. She sets down the mug. That's what's been bothering me, she says, voice gaining strength. I'm choosing the collar because I've had 2 weeks of hell, and I'm convinced it will always be hell. But what if it won't? What if it gets better, not perfect, not easy but bearable? What if there's a medication that works for me, or a therapist who specializes in my type of OCD, or just time to adjust? What if I'm making a permanent decision based on temporary suffering? And the counter-argument? Siobhan asks. The counter-argument is that I had 34 years before the curse, 34 years of trying to heal. And I didn't. I got worse. So why would the next 34 years be any different? Would they be any different? Siobhan asks. Anita is quiet for a long moment. Then, I don't know. Maybe. Before the curse, I hadn't tried every medication. I'd tried 3 SSRIs and given up when they didn't work immediately. I hadn't done intensive ERP therapy. I hadn't found a specialist. She stops. I hadn't really tried. Not fully. I'd tried enough to feel like I'd tried, and then I gave up and looked for a magical solution, and I found one. And it worked. For 7 years, it worked. But it wasn't healing. It was just pausing. Putting my humanity on hold. And now? Siobhan asks. Now I'm about to do it again, Anita says. I'm about to give up after 2 weeks and choose the magical solution, because I'm convinced nothing else will work. But that's... She stops, something clicking into place. That's OCD thinking, all or nothing. Either I'm perfectly healthy, or I'm completely broken. Either I have absolute peace, or unbearable suffering. There's no middle ground. No good enough. No. Managing but not cured. Siobhan smiles, small and sad. There it is. What? The recognition. The moment where you see your own distorted thinking clearly. She leans forward. Your OCD is telling you that human life is unbearable and you must escape. But what if that's just another intrusive thought? Another compulsion dressed up as wisdom? Anita's hands shake. But it feels true. It feels like I can't survive this. I know, Siobhan says. That's the cruelty of OCD. The thoughts feel more real than reality. But Anita, she reaches across the table. Doesn't quite touch Anita's hand. You are surviving. You've survived 2 weeks. You've survived sitting with discomfort. You've survived being here, in the woods, with Remy, without immediately taking the collar. That's survival. That's strength. It doesn't feel like strength, Anita whispers. It feels like torture. Most strength does, Siobhan says. That's how you know it's real. Mark, Anita looks at the collar. She could reach out right now, pick it up, fasten it around her throat. In 30 seconds, she'd be a wolf. In 30 seconds, the thoughts would stop. Her hand moves toward it. Stops. Moves again. Stops. I want to, she whispers. God, I want to. The wolf was so simple. So clean. And I'm so tired of fighting my own brain. I know, Siobhan says. But if I take it, Anita continues, I'm not making a choice. I'm compulsing. I'm performing a ritual to escape anxiety. And that's exactly what I've been doing my whole life. Washing to escape contamination fears. Checking to escape responsibility fears. And now, transforming to escape existence fears. It's the same pattern. Bigger stakes, but same pattern. She pulls her hand back. I can't do this, she says. Can't take the collar? Siobhan asks. Or can't stay human? I don't know, Anita says. Both, neither. I'm so confused. I need. You need certainty, Siobhan says. You need a guarantee that whichever path you choose will work out. But there is no guarantee. That's what makes it a real choice. You have to choose without knowing whether you're right. Anita's breathing accelerates, panic rising. She counts 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. What if I choose wrong? She asks. What if I stay human, and I can't handle it, and I end up dead by my own hand in 6 months? What if I take the collar and the magic fails, and I come back human when I'm 70 and I die confused and alone? What if you can't predict the future? Siobhan interrupts gently. What if you just have to choose based on who you are right now, in this moment, with the information you have? Anita closes her eyes. Who is she? Right now. She's a woman with severe OCD who spent 7 years as a wolf and is struggling to reintegrate into humanity. She's someone who was offered an escape and is desperately, painfully unsure whether taking it is wisdom or suicide. She's someone who's been waiting for certainty that will never come, and she's someone who, despite 2 weeks of hell, is still here, still breathing, still choosing. That has to mean something. I need to see him one more time, Anita says. Remy, before I decide. Siobhan nods. You have 15 minutes. Anita goes outside. The wolf is where she left him, lying in the sun, breathing slowly. Anita sits beside him, puts her hand on his head. I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking, she says, and I need you to just be here while I figure this out. His eyes open, amber and tired. If I take the collar, Anita says, I join you. For a year, maybe 2, and then you die, and I'm alone. And I don't get to grieve you properly because the wolf brain won't let me. I'll just feel empty, confused, waiting for something that won't come back. And I'll spend 50 years like that. 50 years as a wolf who doesn't remember why she's lonely. The wolf's breathing rattles. But if I stay human, Anita continues, I have to fight, every day, for the rest of my life. I have to manage the OCD, find medications, do therapy, build a life around my limitations. It will be hard, harder than being a wolf. But I'll be able to grieve you. When you die, I'll know what I lost. I'll remember you. I'll carry the knowledge that someone loved me enough to destroy themselves searching for me. And that, her voice breaks. That's a gift, she whispers, isn't it? Being able to hold loss, being able to remember, being able to know that I'm not alone, even when I'm lonely. The wolf can't know that. The wolf just exists. But the human can carry meaning. The wolf shifts, presses his muzzle into her palm. I think, Anita says slowly. I think I've been confusing peace with healing. The wolf gave me peace, but it didn't heal me. It just paused the suffering, and when the pause ended, the suffering came back worse, because I'd lost all my coping mechanisms. I'd lost my tolerance for discomfort. 7 years of not suffering made me forget how to survive suffering. She looks at the cabin, where the collar waits. If I take the collar now, she says, I'm choosing another pause. Another 7 years, or 50 years, of not suffering. But I'm not healing, I'm just delaying, running. And eventually, whether the magic fails or I die as a wolf, eventually I'll have to face the same question. How do I survive being human? The wolf's eyes are closing. He's exhausted. I can't keep running, Anita says. Can I? I have to stop. I have to turn around and face the thing I've been running from, which is just myself, my own brain, my own limitations, my own suffering. She's crying now, tears hot on her frozen cheeks. I'm so scared, she whispers. I'm so scared that I can't do it, that I'll try to be human and I'll fail and I'll end up dead. But I'm also scared that if I take the collar, I'll lose the chance to find out if I could have done it. If I could have healed. If I could have built a life worth living, even with OCD, even with suffering, even with all of it. The wolf's breathing evens out. He's sleeping, and Anita sits beside him, this dying wolf, who used to be a man who loved her, and she makes her choice. Not because she's certain, not because she knows it will work out, but because she understands, finally, that choosing to suffer as a human is different from being forced to suffer. One is agony, the other is agency. And agency, however painful, is the only path to actual healing. Anita walks into the cabin. Siobhan looks up from the table where the collar still sits, leather and copper and possibility. I'm not taking it, Anita says. Siobhan's face shows nothing. Are you certain? No, Anita says. I'm not certain at all. But I'm choosing anyway. I'm choosing to stay human. I'm choosing to go back to New York and find a better therapist and try different medications and do the actual hard work of healing instead of running from it. And I'm choosing to grieve Remy when he dies, really grieve him, instead of just being a confused wolf who doesn't understand why she's lonely. It's going to be hard, Siobhan says. I know. You're going to have days where you regret this choice. Days where you think about coming back here and begging me for the collar. I know, Anita says again. And I won't give it to you, Siobhan says. Not after you've made this choice. Not unless you've tried everything else first. Do you understand? This is your one chance. If you walk away now, you have to actually try to heal. For at least a year. And only then, if you've exhausted every option and you're still suffering unbearably, only then will I consider giving you the collar. Anita nods. 1 year. I can do 1 year. Can you? Siobhan asks. I don't know, Anita admits. But I survived 34 years before the curse. I survived 7 years as a wolf. I survived 2 weeks as a human after breaking the curse. So maybe I can survive 1 more year. And then another, and another. And maybe it won't always be this hard. Maybe it gets easier. Or maybe it doesn't. But I get stronger. I don't know. But I'm choosing to find out. Siobhan stands, walks to Anita. And for the first time, she smiles a real smile, warm and proud. Good, she says. That's the bravest thing I've heard in a long time. It doesn't feel brave, Anita says. It feels like choosing torture. That's how you know it's real bravery, Siobhan says. Anyone can choose comfort. Choosing discomfort in service of growth, that's courage. She picks up the collar from the table, walks to the wall, and hangs it with the others. That one was for you, she says. I made it specifically for you. And now it stays here, unmade, in case you ever need to see it, and remember that you chose differently. Anita looks at the collar on the wall. Already it seems less powerful, less necessary. Just leather and metal. Just an object. What happens now? She asks. Now you go back to the world, Siobhan says. You find Iris and her aftermath group. You get a psychiatrist who specializes in OCD. You try new medications. You do exposure therapy. You build a life. And in a year, if you've truly tried everything, and you're still suffering unbearably, you come back. And we'll talk. And Remy? Anita asks, voice small. Siobhan's expression softens. Remy will die as a wolf. Probably within the year, and you'll know when it happens. I'll send word somehow. And you'll grieve him as a human, fully, completely, with all the pain that entails. Because that's what you chose, the ability to feel loss. Anita's chest aches. I wish I could tell him goodbye. You can, Siobhan says. He's outside. And even if he doesn't understand the words, some part of him might understand the intention. Anita goes back outside one last time. The wolf is awake when Anita approaches, amber eyes tracking her movement. She kneels beside him in the snow. I'm leaving, she says. I'm staying human. I'm not taking the collar. And I need to say goodbye. The wolf's tail thumps once. Thank you, Anita says. For waiting. For searching for me even when you couldn't find me. For loving me enough to break yourself. I'm sorry I can't stay with you. I'm sorry I can't be a wolf beside you for your last year. But I need to try to be human. Really try. Not just survive, but actually heal. She puts her hand on his head, feels the warmth of fur, the solid reality of him. When you die, she says, I'll know. And I'll grieve you. I'll remember you. I'll carry the knowledge that you existed, that you cared, that I mattered to someone, and that. Her voice cracks. That's the gift of being human. We get to hold loss. We get to remember. We get to make meaning out of suffering. The wolf leans into her touch, and Anita leans down, presses her forehead to his, and whispers, Thank you for showing me that peace is possible. But I need to find a different kind now, the kind that doesn't require me to stop being myself. She stands, walks back to the cabin, doesn't look back, because if she looks back, she might change her mind. And she's chosen. Finally. Truly. Chosen. Siobhan walks Anita to the trailhead. One more thing, Siobhan says. Before you go. About Morgana. Anita stops. What about her? She reconstituted, Siobhan says. Somewhere, she's out there again. And if you go looking for her, if you decide being human is too hard and you seek her out, I want you to remember something. What? She'll offer you exactly what you want in the moment you're least capable of wanting wisely, Siobhan says. That's her power. She appears when people are desperate, and she gives them their desperate wish. But wisdom requires not acting on desperate wishes. It requires waiting until the desperation passes, and you can see clearly. How do I avoid her? Anita asks. You don't, Siobhan says. You just recognize her when she appears, and you say no. You say, I'm desperate, and I can't trust my own judgment right now. So I'm going to wait. You build the muscle of choosing not to act on compulsions. That's the only protection. Anita nods. I'll try. Trying is all any of us can do, Siobhan says. They stand at the trailhead in silence for a moment. Then Siobhan says, You're going to be okay, Anita. Not cured, not perfect, but okay. I've been alive for 200 years, and I've gotten good at recognizing who will make it. You will. How do you know? Anita asks. Because you chose the hard path, Siobhan says. And people who choose the hard path when the easy path is right there, those people have something inside them that won't quit. Even when they want to. Even when they're exhausted. They keep choosing. And choosing is everything. Anita starts down the trail. Behind her, Siobhan calls, 1 year, Anita. Try for 1 year. Really try. Anita raises her hand in acknowledgement and walks down the mountain, toward the bus, toward New York, toward her life, toward the hard work of learning to be human again. For real this time. Not as a wolf pretending to be human, but as a human learning to live with being human. All the mess and pain and possibility that entails. Chapter 8. The Unrescue. Anita sits in Dr. Yoon's office, her 4th therapist since leaving the mountains, and says the thing she's been avoiding saying for 3 weeks. I'm not getting better. Dr. Yoon sets down her pen. She's younger than Anita expected, maybe 40, with the kind of calm that comes from years of sitting with other people's suffering without trying to fix it too quickly. Define better, she says. Anita's hands twist in her lap. She's already counted the ceiling tiles, 36, the books on the shelf, 41, the seconds between Dr. Yoon's blinks, average 3.7. The checking is constant, the counting never stops. Better would be not doing this, Anita says, gesturing to her hands. Better would be sleeping more than 4 hours a night. Better would be not washing my hands until they crack and bleed. Better would be leaving my apartment without checking the locks 17 times. Better would be... Her voice breaks. Better would be not wanting to be a wolf again every single goddamn day. She's been trying. God, she's been trying. She went back to New York 6 months ago and found Iris and the Aftermath group. Went to meetings twice a week. Started seeing Dr. Yoon 3 months ago when her 2nd therapist admitted she wasn't equipped to handle Anita's case. Started a new medication, her 6th SSRI, plus an atypical antipsychotic for intrusive thoughts. Started intensive ERP therapy, which means deliberately triggering her obsessions and sitting with the anxiety without performing compulsions. It's torture. Controlled, therapeutic torture. and it's not working fast enough. You've been in treatment for 6 months, doctor, Yoon says. Most OCD cases take 12 to 18 months to show significant improvement. Some take longer. You're expecting results on a timeline that's not realistic. I know, Anita says. Intellectually, I know, but emotionally, she can't finish. Emotionally, she's drowning. Every day is a war. Every moment is a battle between her rational mind, which knows the compulsions are irrational, and her OCD, which screams that if she doesn't perform them, something terrible will happen. And she's so fucking tired. Tell me about the wolf thoughts, Dr. Yoon says. Anita closes her eyes. Every day, multiple times a day, I'm washing my hands, and I think, the wolf never washed. I'm lying awake at 3 a.m. counting heartbeats, and I think, the wolf slept deeply. I'm checking locks, and I think, the wolf never worried about locks. It's like I'm grieving. Grieving for the 7 years when my brain was quiet. That's exactly what it is, Dr. Yoon says. You're grieving the loss of that peace. That's normal. Expected, even. Is it normal to want to go back? Anita asks. To think about finding Siobhan again and begging for the collar? Do you have a plan to do that? Dr. Yoon asks, clinical and calm. No, Anita admits. But I think about it. I research bus routes to the Adirondacks. I write letters to Siobhan that I don't send. I dream about running through forests with fur and fangs and no thoughts. Am I failing? You're struggling, Dr. Yoon corrects. There's a difference. Failing would be giving up. You're still here, still trying, still showing up to therapy and taking your medication and doing the exposure work even though it's agonizing. That's not failure. That's heroism. It doesn't feel heroic, Anita mutters. Most heroism doesn't, Dr. Yoon says. It feels like barely surviving. She leans forward, and her voice is gentle but firm. Anita, listen to me. What you're doing, choosing to stay human, choosing to heal the slow way, choosing discomfort over escape, that's the hardest thing a person can do. Most people in your position would have gone back to Siobhan already. Most people would have taken the collar, but you're still here. Do you understand how much strength that takes? Anita's eyes burn with tears. I don't feel strong. I feel like I'm falling apart. You can be both, Dr. Yoon says. Falling apart and strong. In fact, that's usually how it works. You fall apart, and you keep going anyway. That's resilience. Anita wipes her eyes, counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. I got a letter, she says quietly. 3 weeks ago, from Siobhan. Remy died. Dr. Yoon is silent, waiting. Heart failure, Anita continues. In his sleep, he was 11, old for a wolf. Siobhan buried him near the cabin. She sent me a map showing where, in case I want to visit. And her voice cracks. I can't go back there. Because if I go back, I'll take the collar. I know I will. So I'm grieving him from here, from my apartment, and I can't even visit his grave because I don't trust myself. That's wisdom, Doctor, Yoon says, knowing your limitations, protecting yourself from situations where you might make choices you'll regret. That's not weakness, that's self-awareness. It feels like cowardice, Anita says. Then it's brave cowardice, Dr. Yoon says, the kind that keeps you alive. They sit in silence for a moment. Then Dr. Yoon says, do you remember what Siobhan told you? That she needed you to try for 1 year? You're halfway there. 6 more months. Can you do 6 more months? Anita thinks about 6 more months of this. The checking, the counting, the washing, the intrusive thoughts, the sleepless nights, the constant war with her own brain. 6 more months feels like forever. But 6 months ago, 6 months felt impossible. And she's here. Still here. I can try, Anita says. That's all I'm asking, Dr. Yoon says. Anita stands outside her new apartment, a studio in Queens, cheaper than Manhattan, smaller than her old place, and she cannot make herself open the door. She's checked the lock 5 times already. It's secure. She knows it's secure. But what if she didn't check correctly? What if she missed something? What if someone breaks in while she's at therapy, and it's her fault for not checking properly? The thoughts spiral, screaming, endless. She forces herself to walk away. Gets 3 steps, turns back, checks the lock again. This goes on for 45 minutes. When she finally gets on the subway to go to her aftermath meeting, she's late, shaking, and on the verge of tears. She almost doesn't go in. But Iris is standing outside the building, smoking a cigarette, and she sees Anita hesitating on the sidewalk. "You came," Iris says. Not surprised, just observant. "Barely," Anita admits. "Barely counts," Iris says. She stubs out her cigarette. "Come on. Sam brought cookies. They're store-bought and probably stale, but they're cookies." Inside, the aftermath group is smaller than Anita remembers. Only 7 people tonight. David is gone. Iris mentions quietly that he took the collar 4 months ago, couldn't handle being human anymore. The fox woman is gone too, left the city, trying to heal somewhere quieter. But Sam is there, and the deer man, and a new person, a woman maybe 25, who introduces herself as Kira. She was a raven for 3 years. Broke the curse 2 months ago. She's shaking so hard she can barely hold her coffee. Anita sees herself in Kira's eyes, terrified, desperate, barely holding on. It gets easier, Anita tells her, even though she doesn't believe it, even though she's only 4 weeks ahead of Kira and she feels like she's drowning. "Does it?" Kira asks. "Because I've been human for 2 months, and I've already Googled how to get cursed again 17 times. 18 for me," Anita admits. "But I haven't acted on it. That counts for something." "Does it?" Kira asks again. And Anita realizes, she doesn't know. She's been telling herself that not giving up counts, that trying counts, that staying human counts. But does it? Really? Or is she just prolonging suffering that will never end? She doesn't have an answer. But Iris does. "It counts," Iris says, addressing the whole group. "Every day, you choose to stay human. Every compulsion you resist. Every moment you sit with discomfort instead of running from it, it counts. Not because it makes you feel better immediately, but because you're building tolerance. You're teaching your brain that you can survive the anxiety without escaping. And that," she looks around the circle, "that's the only way out. Not around the suffering, through it." "What if we don't want to go through it?" someone asks. "What if we just want it to stop?" "Then you go to Siobhan," Iris says bluntly. "You take the collar. You become a wolf, or a raven, or whatever, and you stop being human. That's a choice. But it's not healing, it's surrendering. And surrender is fine, if that's what you need. But don't confuse it with healing." Anita thinks about this all night. And the next morning, when she wakes up and immediately checks to see if she left the stove on, she didn't. She doesn't even have a stove, just a hot plate. But the thought is there anyway. She makes a choice. She doesn't check. The anxiety spikes. Her heart pounds. Her brain screams that the apartment will burn. People will die. It will be her fault. But she doesn't check. She sits with the feeling, counts to 4, breathes. The anxiety doesn't go away, but she survives it. And that's the first time, the very first time, since breaking the curse that Anita thinks, maybe I can do this. Not easily, not perfectly, but maybe. Anita is walking through Central Park when she sees her. The woman on the bench near Bethesda Fountain. Gray hair, ageless face, long coat despite the warm spring evening. Morgana. Anita's blood turns to ice. She should run, should leave, should get as far away as possible. But her feet carry her forward, like a moth to flame, like a desperate thing to its doom. Morgana looks up, smiles. "Anita," she says. "I was wondering when we'd meet again." "You're dead," Anita says. Her voice shakes. "I killed you." "You killed a body," Morgana corrects. "I'm an idea. Ideas don't die. They just wait." She pats the bench beside her. "Sit. We should talk." "No," Anita says. But she sits anyway. Because some part of her, the tired, desperate, suffering part, wants to hear what Morgana has to say. "You broke my curse," Morgana says. "Congratulations. How's that working out for you?" Anita doesn't answer. "Not well, I'm guessing." Morgana continues. Given that you're here, given that you're still checking and counting and washing and spiraling, given that 6 months of being human again has been 6 months of torture, am I wrong? You don't know anything about me, Anita says. I know everything about you, Morgana says. I know you wake up every morning wishing you were still a wolf. I know you think about Siobhan's cabin every single day. I know you wrote 12 letters, begging her to give you the collar, and burned all of them because you promised yourself you'd try for a year. I know, she leans closer, that you're barely hanging on. Anita's hands clench. How do you? I told you. I'm an idea. The idea of escape. And you're drowning in the need for escape. So I'm here. Offering. Morgana pulls something from her coat pocket. A collar. Different from the one Siobhan showed her, but similar. Leather and metal and possibility. 1 year, Morgana says. Just like before, 1 year as a wolf, you get a break. You get peace. And when the year ends, you come back human. And you can try again. But this time, you'll have had a year to rest. A year to remember what it feels like to have a quiet mind. And maybe, that will make the human suffering more bearable when you return. Anita stares at the collar. It would be so easy. Just fasten it. Just transform. Just run into the trees, and let the wolf brain take over and stop. Thinking. Hurting. Suffering. What's the catch? Anita asks. No catch, Morgana says. I'm not your enemy, Anita. I never was. I'm just someone who offers people what they need when they need it. You needed peace 7 years ago. I gave it to you. You need peace now. I'm offering again. The curse broke when you died, Anita says. Why should I trust that it'll only be a year this time? Because I'm telling you it will be, Morgana says. 1 year. Guaranteed. And if you don't believe me, she shrugs. Don't take it. Go home. Check your locks 17 times. Wash your hands until they bleed. Lie awake counting ceiling tiles. Spend the next 6 months barely surviving, just so you can tell yourself you tried. Is that what you want? No, Anita whispers. Then take the collar, Morgana says, and Anita reaches for it. Her fingers touch the leather. And then, she stops, pulls her hand back. No, she says. Morgana's eyebrows raise. No? No, Anita repeats, stronger now. You're right. I'm barely hanging on. I'm suffering. I'm desperate. And that's exactly why I can't trust myself to make this choice. Because desperate people make desperate choices. And this, she gestures to the collar. This is a compulsion. It's me trying to escape anxiety by performing a ritual. And I've spent 6 months learning not to do that. You've spent 6 months being miserable, Morgana counters. Yes, Anita agrees. I have. But I've also survived. Every single day, I've survived. And maybe that's all I can do right now. Maybe all I can manage is survival. But that's still more than giving up. She stands. I'm not taking the collar, she says. Not from you. Not now. Not when I'm desperate and scared and barely holding on. Because that's when you appear, isn't it? You show up when people are at their lowest and you offer them exactly what they want in the moment they're least capable of wanting wisely. That's your power. But I'm choosing not to act on it. Morgana studies her for a long moment. Then she smiles, and it's almost respectful. You've learned something, she says. I've learned that my brain lies to me, Anita says. It tells me I can't survive this, but I'm surviving. It tells me the only escape is transformation. But there are other escapes: therapy, medication, time, support. Slower escapes, harder escapes, but real ones. And if those escapes don't work, Morgana asks, if you try for a year and you're still suffering unbearably, then I'll go to Siobhan, Anita says. And I'll ask for the collar from her, because she makes people wait. She makes them choose clearly. You don't. You prey on desperation. Morgana laughs, sharp and bright. I don't pray. I offer. There's a difference. Is there? Anita asks. They look at each other, the witch who offers escape, and the woman who's choosing not to take it. You'll be back, Morgana says. In a month, a week, a day when the suffering gets too much, you'll come looking for me. They always do. Maybe, Anita admits. But today, I'm walking away. And she does. She walks away from the bench, from Morgana, from the collar, from the easy escape. Her hands shake the entire way home. She checks the subway map 3 times to make sure she's on the right train. She counts the stops. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She washes her hands twice when she gets to her apartment. She checks the door lock 9 times before she can walk away. But she walks away. And that night, lying in bed, counting ceiling tiles 36, always 36, Anita realizes she just confronted her greatest temptation and said no, not because she's healed, not because she's strong, but because she's learned the difference between a choice and a compulsion. And she's choosing to keep choosing, even when choosing is agony. That has to count for something. Anita tells the group about Morgana. I almost took the collar, she says. I was so close. My hand was on it. And I wanted it. God, I wanted it. But I didn't take it. I walked away. The room is silent. Then Sam says, how did you do it? Walk away? I asked myself a question, Anita says. I asked, am I making this choice because I've genuinely exhausted every option and this is the wisest path? Or am I making it because I'm in pain and I want the pain to stop right now, regardless of cost? And? Kira prompts. And the answer was the second one, Anita says. I was choosing escape, not healing. And I've spent 6 months learning not to do that. So, I walked away. Do you regret it? Someone asks. Anita thinks about the question. Does she regret it? She's still suffering, still checking and counting and washing and spiraling, still barely sleeping, still thinking about the collar every single day. But she's also still here, still trying, still building tolerance for discomfort, still learning that she can survive anxiety without escaping it. No, she says finally. I don't regret it, but I'm also not cured. I'm just persisting. And some days, that's all I can manage. But it's enough. Iris nods. And there's something like pride in her expression. That's all any of us can do, she says. Persist. One day at a time. One compulsion resisted at a time. One moment of discomfort survived at a time. And eventually, maybe not soon, maybe not easily, but eventually the persistence adds up to something that looks like healing. Anita wants to believe her. Some days, she does. Some days, she doesn't. But she keeps showing up. And that, according to Dr. Yoon, according to Iris, according to everyone who's survived, this is what matters. Not belief, not certainty, not even hope, just showing up. Day after day after day, even when it's agony, especially when it's agony. Anita sits at her laptop, writing an email she's been composing in her head for weeks. Dear Siobhan, it's been 8 months. I have 4 months left on our agreement. I'm supposed to try for a year. And I'm trying. I really am. I started a new medication 2 months ago. It's helping. A little. Not a lot. But a little is more than nothing. I'm still doing ERP therapy with Dr. Yoon. It's torture. But I'm learning to sit with anxiety without performing compulsions. Last week, I left my apartment without checking the locks. Just once. Just for 10 minutes. But I did it. I think about Remy every day. I'm sorry I couldn't be there when he died. I'm sorry I can't visit his grave. But I'm carrying him with me. The knowledge that someone loved me enough to break themselves, searching for me, that's kept me going more times than I can count. I don't know if I'm healing. I don't know if this suffering is building toward something or if it's just suffering. But I'm still here. And I promised you a year, so I'm giving you a year. 4 months left. I can do 4 months, I think. Anita. She deletes the last 2 lines. Rewrites them. 4 months left. I'll make it. Not because I'm strong, but because I'm stubborn. And sometimes, stubbornness is stronger than strength. She sends the email. 3 days later, she gets a response. Anita, I'm proud of you. Not because you're healed, but because you're trying. That's rarer than you think. Remy is buried under the oak tree on the north side of the cabin. When you're ready, not now, but someday you can visit. I'll wait. 4 months. You can do it. I know you can. Siobhan. Anita prints the email, puts it on her refrigerator, reads it every morning when the OCD is screaming and she wants to give up. 4 months. She can do 4 months. Epilogue. The uncomfortable piece. They tell you that breaking the curse is where the story ends. The wolf dies, the woman wakes up, she's human again, she's free, roll credits on the triumph of will over magic. But what no one tells you is that the story doesn't end there. It just changes genre from fairy tale to something messier. Something harder to categorize. From fantasy to the grinding, unglamorous reality of learning to live inside a brain that treats everyday existence like a series of catastrophes waiting to happen. Anita understands this now, standing at the bus stop with a backpack and a round-trip ticket to the Adirondacks. 1 year and 2 months since she left Siobhan's cabin. 1 year and 2 months of trying to heal the human way. She's going back. But not for the caller. The apartment she's leaving behind is cleaner than it was a year ago. Not obsessively clean, she's learned. The difference between hygiene and compulsion, but livable. There are dishes in the sink from breakfast. The bed is made, but not hospital corner perfect. The door has 3 locks, and she checked them each once before leaving. Once. Not 17 times. Once. It took her 11 months to get to once, and even now, the anxiety screams that she did it wrong, that she needs to go back, that something terrible will happen because she only checked once. But she doesn't go back. She breathes. 1, 2, 3, 4, and she gets on the bus. Dr. Yoon's last words to her, 3 days ago. You know this isn't a test, right? Going back there doesn't mean you've failed if you struggle. It just means you're human. Anita had nodded, but she didn't fully believe it. Because everything feels like a test when you have OCD. Every moment is pass, fail. Every compulsion you resist is a victory. Every one you perform feels like defeat. But Dr. Yoon continued. You've come further than you think. A year ago you were washing your hands until they bled. Now you wash them twice a day and use lotion. A year ago, you couldn't leave your apartment without checking locks for 45 minutes. Now you check once and walk away, even though it hurts. A year ago, you wanted to be a wolf so desperately you could barely function. Now I still want to be a wolf, Anita interrupted. Every day, the thoughts haven't stopped. But you're not acting on them, Dr. Yoon said. That's what matters. Not the absence of thoughts, but your response to them. You're living with OCD, not cured of it. And that's not failure. That's exactly what recovery looks like for most people. Anita thinks about this as the bus climbs into the mountains, leaves turning gold and red and orange. October painting the world in dying colors that somehow look like hope. Living with, not cured of. It's not the ending she wanted, but it's the ending she has. The hike to Siobhan's cabin is easier this time. Anita's stronger, she's been walking every day. Part of her exposure therapy. Going outside, tolerating the anxiety of being in public, not checking her route obsessively. Her lungs don't burn. Her legs don't shake. But her hands tremble as she approaches the cabin, and she has to stop twice to count her breaths. Not because she's afraid of the caller, because she's afraid of how much she still wants it. Siobhan is waiting on the porch, same as before. Older, somehow, even though only 14 months have passed. Or maybe Anita is just seeing her more clearly now, seeing the weariness that comes from 200 years of watching people choose between suffering and surrender. You made it, Siobhan says. Not surprised. Pleased. Barely, Anita admits. Barely counts, Siobhan says, echoing Iris from a year ago. Come in. I made tea. The cabin is exactly as Anita remembers. Cluttered, warm, herb-scented, and on the wall, the collars. 237 of them. Anita doesn't look at the one that was made for her. She's afraid if she looks too long, she'll reach for it. Tell me, Siobhan says, pouring tea that smells like chamomile and something wilder. How was your year? Anita wraps her hands around the mug. Terrible. And better. Both at once. That sounds right, Siobhan says. I'm not cured, Anita continues. I still check, still count, still have intrusive thoughts that feel like someone else is screaming inside my skull. I still wake up some mornings wishing I was a wolf. She stops, breathes. I'm still broken. But you're here, Siobhan says. But I'm here, Anita agrees. I'm functioning. I have a job part-time, working remotely for a mental health nonprofit. I can't handle full-time yet, can't handle the pressure, but part-time I can do. I go to therapy twice a week. I take medication that helps a little. I go to aftermath meetings. I have, she pauses, surprised by the word, friends, people who understand. And Morgana? Siobhan asks. I've seen her twice more, Anita says. Once in March, once in June. Both times, she offered the collar. Both times, I said no. It gets a little easier each time. Not easy, but easier. Siobhan smiles. You've built the muscle. What muscle? The one that chooses not to act on compulsions, Siobhan says. The one that sits with discomfort instead of escaping it. That's the muscle that saves people like you. Not medication, not therapy, not time. Just that one muscle, used over and over until it's strong enough to hold you together when your brain is trying to pull you apart. Anita's eyes burn. It doesn't feel strong. It feels like I'm constantly on the verge of breaking. That's what strength feels like, Siobhan says. Not invincibility. Just continued choosing despite the strain. They drink their tea in silence for a moment. Then Anita says, I came to visit Remy's grave. If that's okay. Of course, Siobhan says. I'll show you where. The oak tree on the north side of the cabin is massive, ancient, roots tangling into the earth like veins. And beneath it, a small stone marker. No name, just a carving. A wolf, mid-run, caught forever in the moment between strides. Anita kneels in the fallen leaves. Hi, she says. Her voice cracks. I'm sorry it took so long. I'm sorry I couldn't be here when she can't finish. She sits with the grief, doesn't run from it, doesn't try to think her way out of it or perform a ritual to make it stop. Just sits with it, this heavy human thing that the wolf brain would never have been able to hold. I stayed human, she tells the grave. I didn't take the collar. I chose the hard path, the one where I remember you, where I carry this. She touches her chest. This knowledge that someone loved me, that I wasn't alone, that I mattered. The wind moves through the trees. And for just a moment, Anita swears she hears howling. But when she listens closer, it's just wind. Thank you, she whispers. For waiting, for searching, for loving me when I couldn't love myself. I'm trying now. To love myself. Or at least, to not hate myself. It's hard. But I'm trying. She stays there for an hour, maybe more, time doing that strange thing it does when you're grieving. And when she finally stands, her knees aching from kneeling, she feels not better. Grief doesn't make you feel better, but whole, or at least more whole than she was before, because she's carrying loss now, carrying memory, carrying the weight of love that ended, and that's a gift. A painful human gift that the wolf would never have been able to receive. That evening, sitting on Siobhan's porch watching the sun set, Anita asks, Do you think I made the right choice? Staying human? Siobhan is quiet for a long moment. Then, I think you made the choice you could live with. Whether it's right? She shrugs. Only you'll know that. In 10 years, 20 years, at the end of your life, you'll look back, and you'll know if you're glad you stayed human. But right now, today, you can't know. You can only choose. And if I regret it? Anita asks. Later. When I'm 50 and I've spent 20 more years fighting my own brain and I'm exhausted and I realize I should have taken the collar when I had the chance, then you'll regret it. Siobhan says simply. And you'll live with the regret. That's part of being human too. Making choices. Living with consequences. Carrying regret. The wolf doesn't have to do any of that. So the wolf has it easier, Anita says. The wolf has it simpler. Siobhan corrects. Easier and simpler aren't the same thing. Simple means no complexity. Easier means less suffering. And I'm not convinced the wolf suffers less. It just suffers differently. Without the ability to understand or process or find meaning in the suffering, Anita thinks about her wolf years. The time she surfaced and felt that spike of human consciousness, that terrible awareness trapped inside an animal body. Were those moments worse than the daily grind of human OCD? She doesn't know. I saw Lorelei last month, Anita says. In the city. She gestures vaguely, choosing to be a wolf part-time, and she looked happy, or at least, at peace. Lorelei found her path, Siobhan says. It's not your path, that's okay. Is it? Anita asks. Because sometimes I think I'm just stubborn, that I'm choosing suffering out of pride, out of some misguided idea that choosing the hard path is noble. Is that why you're choosing it? Siobhan asks. Anita thinks, really thinks. No, she says finally. I'm choosing it because I want to see what happens. I want to know if I can build a life. A real life, not just survival. I want to know if medication and therapy and time actually work, or if this is as good as it gets. I want to know who I am when I'm not running. And I can't know any of that as a wolf. There it is, Siobhan says quietly. What? The real reason. Not nobility, not stubbornness, curiosity. You're staying human because you're curious about what kind of life you can build. And curiosity. Siobhan smiles. That's the most human thing there is. Animals don't wonder about their potential. Only humans do. Anita hadn't thought of it that way. But now that Siobhan said it, she realizes. It's true. She's staying human because she wants to find out if she can. And that's reason enough. The next morning, Anita prepares to leave. She stands in front of the wall of collars one last time. Do you want to touch it? Siobhan asks. The one I made for you? Anita looks at the collar. Brown leather, copper buckle. Simple and terrible and still, even now, still so tempting. No, she says. If I touch it, I might put it on. And I'm not ready to make that choice today. What if you're never ready? Siobhan asks. Then I'll spend my life not ready, Anita says. And that's okay. Better to live with uncertainty than to end it prematurely out of desperation. Siobhan nods. Will you come back? Maybe, Anita says. Not for the collar, but to visit Remy's grave. To check in. To remind myself what I'm choosing every day when I wake up and decide to be human again. You're welcome anytime, Siobhan says. At the door, Anita pauses. Can I ask you something? Of course. Do you regret it? Anita asks. Becoming a witch, losing your human emotions, the trade you made 200 years ago. Do you regret it? Siobhan looks at her with those ancient green eyes. Every day, she says, and never. How do you hold both? Anita asks. Very carefully, Siobhan says. That's the secret, Anita. You hold contradictions carefully. You regret, and you're grateful. You suffer and you live. You're broken and you're whole, and you don't try to resolve the contradiction. You just carry it. That's what being human means. Carrying contradictions until you're strong enough to find meaning in the weight. Anita nods. She understands now. She's not going to be cured. She's not going to wake up one day and find the OCD has magically disappeared. She's going to carry it for the rest of her life, this heavy, complicated, painful thing. But she's also going to carry other things. Memory, love, loss, curiosity, hope, and the possibility of growth. And the weight of those things, all of them together, that's what makes a life. Not a perfect life, not an easy life, but a human life. And that's enough. Anita sits in Aftermath group and listens to Kira, who's been human for a year now, talk about almost taking the collar last week. I was at the park, Kira says, and Morgana was there. And I was so close. But I remembered what Anita said. About asking yourself, am I choosing, or am I compulsing? And I realized I was compulsing. So I walked away. After the meeting, Kira pulls Anita aside. Thank you, she says, for showing me it's possible. To stay human, to fight, to keep choosing. I'm not special, Anita says. I'm just stubborn. Maybe that's the same thing, Kira says. Anita thinks about this on the subway home. Maybe it is the same thing. Maybe surviving OCD is just stubbornness dressed up as heroism. Maybe recovery is just the act of continuing to choose, over and over, even when choosing is agony. Maybe there's no grand moment of transformation, no breaking of the curse, no triumphant ending. Maybe it's just this: checking the locks once instead of 17 times, washing your hands twice instead of until they bleed, lying awake counting to 4 instead of 400, having more good days than bad days, then more good days than you expected to have. Small victories that add up to something that looks like a life. Someone asks Anita at a party. She goes to parties now. Sometimes, when the anxiety allows, they ask her, "Knowing what you know now, would you choose differently?" She thinks about the question. Would she have refused the caller 7 years ago, knowing what it would cost her? Would she have stayed human through those 34 years of suffering without the 7-year reprieve? Would she go back and choose to never be cursed at all? "I'd choose with my eyes open," Anita says finally. "What does that mean?" The person asks. Anita thinks about how to explain. "It means," she says slowly, "that the curse wasn't the problem. My desperation was. And if I could go back, I wouldn't change what I chose. I needed that relief. I needed those 7 years of peace, or I would have died. But I'd choose it, understanding that it was a pause, not a solution. That I'd have to come back and do the hard work eventually, and I'd give myself permission to do the hard work, to fail, to struggle, to be imperfect, to survive instead of being cured." "Are you surviving?" the person asks. Anita counts her breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4. "Yes," she says, "I'm surviving. And some days, more days than not, now surviving feels like living. Not the way the wolf lived, simple, instinctive, thoughtless, but the way humans live. Complicated, deliberate, full of both suffering and meaning. And Anita has learned that she's willing to trade peace for possibility, silence for growth, simplicity for the messy, uncomfortable, beautiful complexity of being human, even when it hurts, especially when it hurts, because the hurt means she's alive in a way the wolf never was, fully, completely, imperfectly, human." Final image. Anita stands at the window of her apartment, a better apartment now, a 1-bedroom in Brooklyn, closer to aftermath meetings and Dr. Yoon's office, and watches the sun set over the city. She's checking the window lock. Just once. The anxiety is there, telling her to check again, but she's learned to let the thoughts exist without obeying them. Behind her, on the refrigerator, is a photo. Her and Kira and Sam and 3 other aftermath members, taken at a group outing to the botanical gardens. She'd been terrified that day, crowds, germs, the possibility of contamination, but she'd gone anyway. And it had been hard, but also good, both at once. She's learned to hold contradictions now. And on her bookshelf, in a frame, is Siobhan's letter from a year ago. She reads the last line, whenever the thoughts get too loud. "You can do it, I know you can." She didn't believe it then. She's not sure she believes it now, but she keeps choosing as if she does. And that act of choosing without certainty, of fighting without knowing if you'll win, of carrying weight without knowing if it will ever get lighter. That's what they don't tell you about breaking curses. The curse breaks, the wolf dies, the woman wakes up, and then the real work begins. Not the work of being saved, the work of saving yourself, one choice at a time, one breath at a time, one uncomfortable, imperfect, human day at a time. Anita turns from the window, checks the lock one more time. She's allowed one more. That's the agreement with herself. One check to confirm, and then walking away even if it hurts. It hurts. She walks away anyway. And outside, in the October evening, the city breathes and lives and continues, and Anita breathes and lives and continues with it. Not cured, not perfect, not at peace, but human, finally, fully, fractally human. And some nights, that's enough. If Anita's year of fighting moved you, subscribe, because stories about choosing the hard path over the easy escape deserve an audience that stays. Comment below if you've ever had to choose survival over peace. Your story matters just as much as hers.